Oh, you know what I love?
Sports.
Love sports.
Sports. When
it comes to Texas A&M.
Where are you getting this information?
Let me tell you.
Welcome to TexAgs.
I need to talk a little sports with you, Ags. David Nuño here with TexAgs Radio. Billy Lucci here on TexAgs Radio. Olin Buchanan.
We will develop men, we will graduate players, and we will win championships on the field.
The best way for us to win is to do it together.
Do you realize everybody knows who you are right now?
I think we're coming into this year with a new confidence.
Schools are like, we're freaking Texas A&M, man. Like,
that's about as pretty a throw-catch combo as there is.
I saw the safety roll, the slot fade. I knew where I needed to put the ball.
You had no other option but one hand at that point.
Yeah, man, 50-50 ball, I got to come down with it.
You know, if I'm betting on anybody, it's the Aggies.
Got this text this morning from Get Off My Lawn guy. And it says, this has nothing to do with Bryce Anderson, but this is a strange byproduct of the transfer portal. Guys announcing that they're staying. I remember it happening last year. It's almost as if these guys reopened their recruitment, except they didn't. And they need some Twitter likes. I don't think that's the case with Bryce by any stretch. But we are in a different world where you have to, for momentum's sake, for teammates' sake, for locker room, for social media, which it doesn't matter, but it does matter to those. You almost have to say it to kind of stop what people think is happening. As TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio, Go Hour presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. I'm David Nuño. He's our Heisman Trophy voter. He's our TexAgs model. His name is Olin Buchanan, OB.
Is it possible that Bryce Anderson just loves being at Texas A&M and sees everything that's going on in the negative press and the negative, all things, and just says, hey, I'm going to put it out there. I'm staying.
Yeah.
When one of your best players, and let's not get this messed up. He's one of A&M's best players this year. If we were doing that 30 for 30 or whatever,
You'd be in the top 5, 6?
I think so.
Yeah.
So you have a guy like that says, "Hey, I'm staying." That's a positive thing. Why would anyone criticize that? Oh, by the way, I think if there's any place where if you're going to make a show of loyalty could also be profitable, it's probably here. Well, because NIL people are probably like, I like that guy. He's showing loyalty to my program. I want to reward him for that.
I don't think it's a shot at Bryce. I think it's a shot at where we are today in this college football world where you have to send messages out. I'm not going – well, shouldn't it be under – like my son –
I get that, but I'd be celebrating it.
Sure. Yeah. There's a both factor here. My son's not going to wake up tomorrow and be like, I'm staying in this family. Like, when you're an Aggie, you're a freaking Aggie, and that's it. Unfortunately, today, I got excited. Sorry. A little excited. But today, that's not how it works. You have to almost be like, Mom and Dad, I've decided I'm not going to transfer to another family. Like, that's where we are right now.
Yeah, except there's, it's such a epidemic of transfers now.
Yeah.
Right? And, it really helps that one of your best players, I think, will stand up and say, I'm staying, because.
Well, I think that announcement came from Texas Aggies United. I'm pretty sure it did. But, yes, It's still, he co-signed it, right? He's not going to allow them.
Yeah, I don't think, it goes without him making a comment, right? So, I think that's great. In fact, I would love to see every player that's intending to stay to make an announcement. Hey, I'm staying.
Heading into next year, Bryce Anderson is your best defensive player, top 2, 3?
Well, let me wait a few weeks to find out who's going to be here. He may be the number one, but I might have to see who else is going to still be around. Like if Edgerrin Cooper shocked the world and said, I'm not going to the NFL draft, which, by the way, we all fully expect him to go into the NFL draft. Why would he? Made first-team AP All-American. Was announced yesterday. But if he said that, well, then I'd have to wait. But based on who I think's going to be coming back,
he's in the conversation 1A, 1B.
I don't know who would be better.
Yeah.
Torrey York's really good, but I think I'm going to put Bryce Anderson ahead of him right now. But yeah, I mean I would like to see all of A&M's really good players that are planning on staying to make a public comment.
So you'd like Connor tomorrow to be like,
hell yeah, I would.
Evan
and Ruben
Stewart.
Owens, Evan Stewart,
Pablo Escobar.
Everybody that's a good player that's staying. Well, everybody that's staying, because you hear so much about everybody trying to poach A&M's roster, even people that are here. And people doing things that I think are just unethical. So why not have the guys that are going to be here and want to be on a good team, of course. You help make your team better by saying, I'm going to be here, because then there's recruits and people that are going to be transferring in and say, okay, man, this guy, good talent knows talent.
But again, I think it just says this is where we are in college football, that an announcement has to be made.
Yeah, I get that.
And I don't like that, but I can't do anything about it.
Yeah, but we're you know what, like you said, the old man yelling at the cloud.
Yeah.
You can get upset about it. Why? I mean, it's been going on now for a couple of years.
Yep.
So be glad
that our guys
that one of your top 5 players for next year, and maybe even better than that, has through whatever means has made a statement that he's coming back. And like I said, if I was a guy that had money to contribute to NIL or had a company, that guy that's saying he's a good player and he's making a show of loyalty to the program, and where in the world of college sports is loyalty more important than Texas A&M, where they value it?
Yeah.
I would reward that.
Yeah, well, and speaking of loyalty, what did I read? That A&M had already sold out their allotment for the Texas Bowl of tickets. Like, that's what we do here.
Yeah, and Aggie fans, I think you should be commended for that. What I don't like is the school sometimes. I've said they feast on the loyalty of their fans like vampires on blood. They take it for granted too often.
Yeah. You know who I blame for all of this? I'm kind of kidding, but not. I blame LeBron James.
Because of his
because
I'm taking my talents and manipulating the system.
It's become, I mean, look, I would have chosen Miami over Cleveland 100 times out of 100.
Yes.
Right?
So would I.
But I think what it signified at that point is it is the player empowerment movement, which there's a lot of good that comes from it. But I'm going to go where I want to go. And if I want to play with my buddies, I'm going to play with my buddies. And if I'm going to go here and it's an easier chance to win a championship, then I'm going to go here. And that has trickled down to the struggle isn't – sometimes you don't have to struggle to get to where you need to go. You just, all right, I'm going to go here now.
Well, I don't blame LeBron for what's going on. I've made this very clear. And I blame Mark Emmert and the NCAA, for never stepping up and acknowledging what they were doing with college sports and players was unfair.
Yep.
I remember they would for a long time wouldn't let athletes have a job. Then they said you could have a job. This is back in like around 2007. And there was a quarterback at South Florida I think his name was Matt Groth, and he got a job as a bartender and said, oh, wait, you can't have that job because that job means you could get tipped real high.
Right.
And all this. So they would never do anything to, they always said they wanted the athletes to be like normal students, but then they wouldn't let them do things that normal students do. And then it got to where, we'll give you this, but you can't do this, and all they had to do at some point was acknowledge that, hey, we need to set up a system where they can make money off their name, image, and likeness, but let's put some parameters together to keep it all under control. And you had decades to figure it out, and they never would, because all they really cared about was getting paid themselves.
Let me ask you this, and I know that the real loyalty isn't really there. Are there 1, 2, 3 destinations you can't go to if you're a Texas A&M football player? You can't. I'll name some for you, but you can name some for me.
I mean, obviously you can. You can go anywhere you want.
You can go wherever you want. It's America, yeah.
But never come back, right? Texas.
What else?
Alabama, LSU.
I'm going to throw one out there.
Throw one out there.
And it's
Syracuse.
Prisoner of the moment situation, and the moment's lasted a few years. I don't think you can go to Ole Miss. And I know people have done it, and I know Walter Nolan's apparently going there this week to talk to him. I don't think you can. I think it's a bad sign. You can do whatever you want, but I don't like it.
Well, you're not going to like it when they go anywhere, right?
But I think that one hurt more.
Some place just irritates you more than others.
Texas hurts more. Ole Miss and LSU. Alabama, I almost kind of understand. Like, oh, it's Alabama. I'm not saying I'm okay with anything, but I just feel like what has happened between our two universities, or at least Lane Kiffin and this university, makes it like, oh man, you can't go there. Can't go from the Dodgers to the Giants, can you?
Well, yeah, you can, but
can you?
But it's like, I wonder, does the once an Aggie, always an Aggie thing apply when you go to if you leave and go to Texas?
If you're going for grad school, that's different, right?
You're not competing against Texas A&M for them.
If you're I don't think you can do that.
I
don't expect Now, don't get me wrong.
So that's my question of the day. When does once an Aggie, always an Aggie not apply?
So like Haynes King, still an Aggie in my eyes.
Is okay.
Chase Lane graduated from A&M. He's an Aggie.
Okay. So if
they went to Texas,
so if you're a graduate and you've got your ring and everything, and you decide that you had to say you're a grad transfer and you grad transfer to Texas and play against A&M, even though you wear the Aggie ring, how does that work?
Well, I don't know. Like for instance,
I don't know if it's ever happened. There was a track girl or a volleyball girl or something recently. Maybe it's basketball that left and went to play to Texas, right?
Yeah, and a coach too.
But did they ever actually play against A&M?
No. So for instance,
okay,
I'll give you the flip of it.
All right.
Alan Waddell. Where did he go to school?
Well, he went to Texas.
But I feel like he's an Aggie.
Well, yeah.
Like he's embraced us.
Yeah, but he did. And look, when you get a job, everything changes. I mean, you can go to Texas A&M and be the most rabid Aggie ever, but when it's time to get paid, and A&M's not offering you a job and somebody else is,
that's different. Yeah,
you got to live.
I think we can have opinions, but it's in your heart. If you're an Aggie, you're an Aggie, right? And I know if the Longhorn Network offered me a lot of money, well, it depends how much money, a lot of money, it'd be, I don't think I can do it.
Balderdash. First of all, there's no Longhorn Network anymore, but I get your point.
My point.
I'm just saying is that
if Orange Bloods say, Nuño, we see what you're doing with TexAgs Radio, we'd love for you to do that for. No. No.
If the Tiger Rag, that's what it's called over there, one of the LSU things,
sure,
offered to double my salary.
Ooh. College kids? Can I wear maroon on the show?
I mean, it would take something amazing, but if they were going to double my salary and give me an 8-year contract, if they were to give me you would give Texas 10-year, $7.5 million contract guaranteed.
Yeah,
I would go.
Hey, but and I know because you've done it and I've done it. You can be like as diehard of an Aggie as we are, and then in the certain setting, be a journalist as well. So, for instance, when you worked at Rivals, when I worked at Rivals myself, or at Yahoo, and when I worked at ABC 13, if Texas was a lead, they got the same billing as A&M would get.
Absolutely.
And some people didn't like that.
When you're a professional, all that stuff goes out the window. When I was a national writer, I had no allegiance to anybody professionally.
While you're doing that job.
You
can take a step back.
Absolutely. And I know a lot of fans can't understand that. But you have to be in the business to be able to understand how you can take a step back and have, you just become impartial. It doesn't matter. You root for the best stories, not for the best teams.
Obie, I think we should open up the phone lines and the text line. Can we do that? If you want to be a part of the conversation this morning, you can do it multiple ways. Obie, what's one way?
Well, you can text us.
Yeah, 979-693.
And you can
1150.
You can call us.
You can call us at what number?
I don't know.
979-693-1150. Let's go behind the glass and say hi to Nick Savage. And Nick, before I say hello to you, I'm looking at Kay Nagley's comment on the YouTube page. Where'd it go? Basically saying there's another Nuño quote. Do you guys have like a counter? Because it's become a thing, and I think you're the leader of the group of Nuñoisms.
Actually, that's not true. You did, in fact, have a Nuñoism, but that's not what she's referencing. I don't remember what it was, but it was like, it is, but it isn't.
But it is.
But what she was talking about was when you announced that you were staying in your family. So I would like to also announce that I am staying at TexAgs. I will be here tomorrow.
Well...
Unless you get tired of
HR to talk.
Unless you get tired of me calling out your Nuñoisms, but it's all in good fun.
If the Nuñoisms are good,
they're not good or bad.
I'm announcing I'm staying with my family. Is that what I said?
No, that's not the Nuñoism. But yes, you did announce that.
What is my Nuñoism?
A lot of times you say things like, "Yeah, I'm this, but I'm not."
Thank you. COB.
I'm this, but I'm not.
I'm strong, but I'm not strong.
Nuñoism.
Yeah. Well, what did I say today?
You said it is, but it isn't. I don't know what you were talking. I don't remember what you were talking about specifically, but you said that.
All right. Well, how about you give us some substance this morning?
Well, I don't know if y'all brought it up, Zoe, if you could pull up the A&M baseball schedule, but they released that earlier. I think it was Friday they released it, and if you just give it a quick glance, a lot of fun non-conference matchups. Got ASU a couple times up at Globe Life. Oh my gosh, up at Globe Life Field, excuse me. USC mixed in there as well. Obviously, the annual matchup at Texas. And then for the conference slate, you got at Florida to kick things off. No rankings just yet because they released that a little bit closer to the season. But as always, that SEC slate is a gauntlet in baseball. So it's exciting. Baseball's coming up and can't wait to see that.
I'm really looking forward to baseball season. I used to not even care about baseball.
When I got here, and actually the listening towards Schloss, like your interest started growing.
Yes.
I remember that because Gabe was still hosting the show.
Yeah.
And
I really, with this kid coming in from Stanford, and, I don't watch it enough to where I know all the names in December.
Right.
Right.
You will, though.
But I will. But so I can't remember the kid's name. And
Brady Montgomery?
Yeah. And he's going to be hitting with the Lavalette, those guys next to each other, and Kent coming on. I know a few of the names. And with
Kent's dad is?
Jeff Kent.
There you go.
Who's, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, his dad has the major league in home runs among second basemen.
I think
he's hit more home runs than any second baseman in Major League history.
Houston Astro great.
Or among other places, right? But anyway, so I'm looking forward to that. The pitching with the new pitching coach. What's his name?
Wiener?
Yeah. What are you laughing at over there?
You just wanted to hear him say that.
I just said I can't remember a lot of the names.
Never mind, OB.
Luke.
You are his father.
Luke.
By the way, this is Coffee Talk presented by
his Giants jersey.
Hey, we're back up.
Hey, Jim Harbaugh is in the house again. In your khaki pants.
He's getting all red over there.
Hey, look, Randy Bullock has propelled the Giants towards a trajectory that I didn't think was possible about 24 hours ago when I said my team sucked. But now I'm here to proclaim that the Giants are back. They're in playoff contention, and they might just be the best team in the NFC East. Look, the eye test doesn't lie. They have the most recent win out of any NFC East team. So don't quote me on that, but I think the Giants are the best team.
I hope they win one more game.
Against the Eagles?
Yes.
By the way, Luke Evangelist is at the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Harbaugh, please continue.
Yeah, I've actually got an update. You were talking about players going to Texas, but how about Texas players coming to A&M? Coach Mark Weaver picked up Nicole Kieran from Texas. She was the Big 12 Player of the Year and Big 12 Freshman of the Year, so she'll be joining the Aggie women's tennis team.
Everybody makes mistakes, and she made one. What's important is how do you do to rectify that mistake? I grew up a Longhorns fan, and then I grew up.
My wife went to Texas, and now she only roots A&M.
Well, once again, I think Texas is a really good girls' school.
Continue on, Luke.
Oh, thank you for that, OB. So the new women's AP poll came out for basketball, and the Aggies are receiving 10 votes, which has them in 30th place. Joni Taylor's squad is 9-1 and riding a 7-game winning streak. They only won 9 games all last season and have a chance to eclipse that on Monday when they host Mississippi Valley State.
Eclipse it!
Eclipse it. The men's team dropped out of the AP poll and the coaches poll, but not to worry. We saw last year that this team plays much better when they're unranked. The Aggies were 19-5 while unranked and 6-5 while ranked. They're still receiving 58 votes, which has them in 28th place. So I wouldn't be surprised to see them ranked come SEC play. But for now, I say don't rank us.
By the way, if you can you read the Chase in Houston text?
Yep, I've got that pulled up. Chase in Houston says, I can't believe we live in a world where we need players to make a social media post just to commit to say that they are staying at a school. Crazy world we live in, boys.
I think we should get some graphics and some production value and announce that you're going to stay at TexAgs for at least the end of 2023.
Well, for at least the end of the day, hopefully.
Oh, we'll see. HR is listening.
Now, again, if I get that Fisher deal,
you'll go wherever.
I will go. I will do
Beirut right now.
I will do almost anything for the Fisher deal.
Almost. Let's not find out what you would do. All right. Let's hit it. By the way, that is Coffee Talk brought to you by TexAgs Coffee. Beat the hell out of morning by going to TexAgs.com/coffee. OB, you're not a coffee guy.
I'm not.
But in a coffee cup, if I filled it up with rib tips, would you be all about it?
Well, they put them in a styrofoam cup.
Styrofoam. It's bigger
yeah.
than a coffee cup.
Yeah, but I'll eat rib tips out of just about any container.
Have you ever put?
In fact, I'd like a big bucket of rib tips.
Yeah.
So I just strap it on my face like a horse in a feed bag, and I'll just eat on rib tips. I walk around with a feed bag on, eating those rib tips. They're that good.
We should try that.
Let's do it.
The last time I took rib tips home from Fargo's, you know what I did? I took some home.
Ate them again?
Not only did I eat them again, I put them in my eggs in the morning.
Oh, there you go.
Oh my gosh, those are some good eggs.
Yeah, I like those rib tips. And you know what today is?
Today happens to be Tuesday.
And you know what you can get on Tuesday?
Hold on. Carry the 2 times 4 divided by rib tips.
Rib tips at Fargo's. Because I've had rib tips other places. I had rib tips in Memphis.
Not the same.
Was not the same.
Yeah.
But you know what? If you get there too late, they'll be sold out. So, but then you can call an audible and like I did and get the chopped beef sandwich, among other things. That was really good.
And macaroni and cheese.
Oh. But rib tips is kind of like Marlon Brando in The Godfather. I mean, it's the star. Yeah. But everything else, still a very great supporting cast.
I'm announcing I'm going back to Fargo's. All right, I'm going to put a social media post. I'm announcing. I'm going 1701 South Texas Avenue in Bryan. Without a doubt, the what?
The best barbecue in Texas, i.e., the entire world.
Fill in the blank. That is their
what? It's their trademark because it's true.
Okay, just wanted to see if you. I changed it up on you.
You
right
did.
There. Yeah,
you threw me an audible.
An audible. It's Fargo's.
An edible audible.
TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio Go Hour, presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. OB, it's now time for the Apex Performance of the Week. Apex Performance of the Week presented by Apex Health, as I just mentioned, because I like to read things twice. Feel like you're losing your edge? It could be low testosterone. Increase your energy, sharpen your focus, and boost your performance with a custom treatment plan from Apex Health. Learn more, apexhealthclinic.com. They are owned and operated by a veteran, and they serve the Brazos Valley. OB, do you have somebody you want to throw out there?
Well, if I was going to put somebody out from A&M, I'd have to look to see what I saw. And I saw Manny Obaseki have a really nice game.
Look at that. I knew you were going to go there. Huh.
Yeah, 21 points. He was one of the few shining spots in that loss to Memphis. And if he can
athletically, he's got so much upside.
He really does. And if he can really, because I'm not expecting him to go out and score 21 points every game, right? But if he can go out and start being another scorer, I think eventually Wade Taylor's going to work out whatever is going on with him, and Boots is back, Henry Coleman, so you could, that'd be really invaluable. But if I know it's not A&M related, but gosh, if you watch that game Sunday night, how do you not pick Brandon Aubrey, the Cowboys kicker, who had 4 field goals over 45 yards,
MLS player,
3 over 50, yeah.
That's the story, right? He's an MLS player, never played in high school or college. Right.
Went to Notre Dame, played soccer there.
Yeah.
And from Plano.
Yeah, I think you're a soccer fan.
And he became, no, I'm not. No, I'm a fan of soccer kickers.
Okay.
Soccer-style kickers all the way back to Tony Frisch.
Look at that.
Who was the first soccer-style kicker for the Cowboys. I saw it. They said that, it was said that this Aubrey guy, the first player in NFL history to have 2 field goals of 59 yards or further in the same game.
Goodness gracious. How about
that's,
that?
That's almost Tony Franklin-esque, well, to put an A&M spin on it.
OB, I actually put your entire Dallas Cowboys team on there as a performance of the week. Don't you think they deserve it after that beat down of the Philadelphia Eagles?
Yeah, I beating the Eagles just makes me happy. So maybe that's why I've been in a good mood all week.
Yeah, you have been in a good mood all week. Luke, why don't you tell us the third person on the list and provide some clarity for us?
That's going to be Lauren Ware, a member of the A&M women's basketball team. There's a lot of players who are hitting 4 and 5 double-doubles already in the season, just 10 games in, and Lauren Ware is one of those players. She had 11 points and 10 rebounds, going 4 for 7 from the field against Robert Morris. I believe the count is her and Janiah Barker are tied at 5 double-doubles. And there are a couple players tied at 4. So a lot of points being scored. Like I said earlier, the team is winning. They're on this winning streak. In their 7 games, they're winning by an average of 31 points. So it's not common. It's not uncommon to see players putting up double-doubles
and she's
every night for Jonah
right?
Taylor. Yeah, she's
from
a transfer
where?
from Arizona.
Yeah, see this? Did that from where?
From where?
Oh, I didn't even. Wow, you're on another level today. I didn't even pick that one up.
Yeah, if she keeps this up, they're going to call Reed Arena the warehouse.
Can I just throw out
the
warehouse of CC Creations?
Yes.
Can I just give, and I don't even know if an honorable mention is the right way, but let's give Devon A-Chain a little bit of props. I know the Dolphins lost, but that one play that's all over the boards right now, the stiff arm of his offensive lineman. 7 carries, 47 yards. Solid. Just solid. By the way, 5 catches, 24 yards.
I really admired Devon. And I remember this time last year, or not this time last year, but last year saying that I thought he could be a 2,000-yard back, with and then, that offensive, just it's amazing what he did in that offense.
Mm-hmm.
But when I watch him doing things for the Dolphins, it's weird. I'm going to borrow a Nuño phrase. I celebrate it, but I don't. Because I'm happy for Devon A-Chain. But I keep thinking about
what if?
Why did the Aggies wasted all that time? Or they didn't get the most out of it because they had such a bad scheme, even though scheme don't matter. That you're
never going to let that down.
I never will. That may be. Look, I like Jimbo Fisher. I did, but there were some things he said that didn't make sense to me. And that was the dumbest thing. I sat in press conference after press conference of Kevin Sumlin for 6 years. And that was the dumbest thing I ever heard. And that's saying something. To to hear him say scheme don't matter. You think Mike Leach scheme didn't matter for Mike
mattered
Leach?
quite a bit.
Scheme don't. That was just the dumbest thing. And it just go. Never mind. Moving on. Scheme can matter for sure. Yeah, I think it matters.
I always go back to, and I know this is Captain Obvious here. I always go back to just block, and the scheme matters, but not as much. Like, just block, guys. Just block.
Maybe if you had a different scheme,
they could block.
They could block.
A la mejor, see?
See?
Maybe so. So to break, we'll come back with Charean Williams here on TexAgs Radio. Right now, a moment for Caldwell Country Chevrolet. They're on Highway 21. They are in Caldwell, and they are online at caldwellcountrychevrolet.com. When you go to Caldwell Country Chevrolet, you're going to find the best deals out there, right? You go online, you'll see the vehicles that they have, kind of get a feel for their price point and the vehicles that they're trying to sell right now. But they change that all the time. When you go to Caldwell Country Chevrolet, you're going to be blown away by the customer service. And again, you'll get the test drive, you'll get a feel for it, and they'll tell you all about their service beyond the vehicle, right? Beyond the purchasing of the vehicle, because they have complimentary pickup for all of their service customers. A valet, they'll pick it up, they'll bring you back. They do it all there at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. And again, great trade-in values on whatever you're trying to get rid of to help you with the new purchase there at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. It's about a 15-minute drive. Brian of Caldwell, short conversation away, but you'll see the difference when you step on the lot and do business with the good people there at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. Highway 21 in Caldwell, online, caldwellcountrychevrolet.com. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Let's go straight to the Brian Foley Law Hotline. That's where we find Charean Williams, a Pro Football Talk, an Aggie great, a Hall of Famer. Charean, good morning.
Good morning. How are we doing today?
Great.
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Hey, Charean, I've been doing great ever since Sunday night.
Oh, there you go. Your team won. Look who blew in it. That was a pretty impressive win. Although I said before the game they would blow out the Eagles, but they would not win the East. I still believe that. With the Eagles having the easiest schedule left in the NFL, I still think the Eagles win it. But the Cowboys have a chance. They just got to go to Buffalo and win. They got to go to Miami and win, which now looks a lot easier than it did before last night with the injury to Tyreek Hill. And then come back home and play Detroit, which looks a lot easier than it did even 2 weeks ago, and then beat the Commanders, which always looks easy. So win out and give yourself a chance.
Charean, before we get into some Aggie football stuff, just is Dak your MVP this year?
No, I don't think so because of what Brock Purdy is doing. People don't realize his yards per attempt right now is almost 10, which would be the most in the NFL in over 67 years. It'd be a modern era record by a long shot. In comparison, somewhere in the sevens is what most quarterbacks have right now. I looked at Dak's before Sunday. It was a little over 7 yards per attempt. It's just amazing what Brock Purdy's doing. And people say, well, he has all these weapons. Chris McCaffrey could be the MVP, or Trent Williams could be the MVP because he's so good at left tackle, and all these different Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk. Are you telling me Joe Montana didn't have Jerry Rice and a bunch of weapons when he won the MVP award? I mean, come on. Every good quarterback has weapons.
And that's why she's in the Hall of Fame.
But, well,
because she's going to tell you all of it.
Back to my point. Whichever quarterback gets the top seed in the AFC, whichever quarterback, this is generally how it's done. Top quarterback in the AFC, top quarterback in the NFC of the top teams, they get that number one seed in the bye. You look at those quarterbacks and you go, well, it's one of those two quarterbacks. That's usually how it turns out. It's become a quarterback award, and generally the quarterback is awarded. So back to make it a simple answer, if the 49ers get the number one seed in the NFC, it's going to be Brock Purdy. In order for Dak to get the award and have serious consideration, they've got to win the NFC East. They can't finish second, be a wild card team as well as he's played. I don't think he'll be on my ballot as one of the five, but he's not going to be number one on the ballot. But it's a great question, and it's relevant.
Charean, how about Bryce Anderson yesterday announcing, the Texas Aggies United, that he's staying? We kind of talked about it. It's weird. I love it because it does send a message, but I think it's weird that this is where we are in college football.
Yeah. It's completely weird. I texted a friend of mine. She sent it to me, and I'd already seen it, of course, because that's my boy from Beaumont Westbrook and A&M, and we got a good little pipeline there. And I had already seen it, but I'm like, why? Like, this is really strange that this is where we are in college football, that we have to tweet out, tweet things that we're staying. I mean, I just saw it as a little bit weird from where we are in college football. That's the state of it, but that is what it is, and it does send a message. I love seeing it. Sends a good message, but I didn't think he was going to leave anyway. So there was no relief there. It was just kind of like, oh, okay, well, at least it's official now, I guess.
Well, I don't have anything to add to that other than I don't know that I see a whole lot of that anywhere else. But not a lot of anywhere else have they had the upheaval that they've had at A&M. So I just think that getting that out there is nothing positive. It's just, is it weird for college football? But everything's weird for college football now.
Yeah, it really is.
Charean, what do you think about the big pickup that they picked? The big pickup that they picked up yesterday. There you go. And Will Lee, the cornerback out of Kansas State.
Yeah. Well, it's obvious that a need for the program, and they got a good one. It sounds like. I went back and read a lot about him, so I think they've done well there. They need to make more moves there. As I said all along, like I don't love the portal like everybody else, but it's there, so you have to utilize it. And it's like free agency in the NFL. You have a guy's resume. You've seen what he can do on the biggest stage. Where a 5-star coming in, we've seen enough 5-stars blow it out that I would much rather have a guy who has performed at a high level for a period of years, whether that's 1 year or 3 years or whatever it is, than to have a kid coming in that I have no idea how he's going to perform once he gets to college football and the lights kick on and he's on the biggest stage. I mean, we've just seen it too many times. It's the same with the NFL, with the draft, and with free agency. I mean, look at Bryce Young. He is not playing well, and he may turn out to be a good quarterback, but I had that game on Sunday. He was awful. Like, he's just not a good NFL quarterback right now. Maybe it happens. Some guys need longer to develop than others, but when you compare him to some of the rookies, even last night we saw Tommy DeVito and Will Levis play better than Bryce Young's playing. So you just don't know how these guys are going to develop once they move up a level. But when you get transfers, you've seen it. And I think he's a good example of, he can play, and he's going to play really well. And I think that's important to have a guy like that on your team in your secondary who can be that lockdown corner. It sounds like he's that guy.
You want to go through the Aggies in the NFL, Charean?
Yeah, it was a good week. A bunch of honorable mentions. Tyrell Dodson, we hadn't mentioned his name this year. He had 8 tackles the other day, playing really well. Josh Reynolds in the Lions lost 3 catches, 44 yards, and a touchdown. Braden Mann, a 28-yard pass on a fake punt against the Cowboys. Maybe he should have been the quarterback Sunday night, Olin. He might have done a little bit better than.
Well, he didn't lose any turnovers.
That's right. He had no turnovers. Let's go number 3. We're going to go Donovan Wilson, Cowboys safety, 5 tackles, a forced fumble, a fumble recovery. Just playing awfully well, kind of under the radar guy for a lot of people, but he's playing outstanding. Number 2, mention his name almost every week, and there's a good reason why. Justin Matabuke has at least half a sack in 10 games in a row, 11 sacks overall. He had 5.5 sacks last year, which was his career high, so he's just shattered that. 7 tackles, a sack, 5 quarterback hits, amazing in that win over the Rams that went into overtime. He's going to make a lot of money because he becomes a free agent after this season, and they love pass rushers. So speaking of a guy who's proven and will get paid, he's the guy. And number 1, just really happy for him. He missed a field goal early in the game, but came back. Randy Bullock kicked a 37-yard game winner on the last play last night to give the Giants the upset win over the Packers. I love Randy. He's a great story. And you love it when good people succeed, and he's one of those good people. So happy to see him get that last play field goal.
Charean, one last thing for you. Let me ask you if you got any hot sports takes or any thoughts on the whole Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes, offsides debacle.
Yeah, I'm one of these that he lined up offsides. He didn't check with the official, as Andy Reid confirmed yesterday. So, you lined up offside. I don't know what the big deal is. D Ford lined up offsides for you in the 2018 AFC Championship game, and they have the same argument. I went back and looked. I tweeted it yesterday. Andy Reid said, well, they usually give you a warning in that situation. How many warnings do you want? Line up on side. Both sides. If the defense had done that, they wouldn't have complained about the officials not giving a warning, to them. And I will say this, too. Patrick Mahomes said, well, I want the players to make the plays, in the biggest moments of the game. It should be the players, not the officials. Did the Chiefs benefit from a defensive holding call on the Eagles at the end of the Super Bowl? So stop this drama. I just think Patrick Mahomes has come out looking awful in this. It's the first time in his career he's faced any adversity, and he is not handling it well. In his NFL career anyway. He's not handling it well at all. So stop with the crying. He lined up offside. I think they did it to protect Kadarius Toney because they need him, because they didn't address the receiver position. But this is all on the GM and the front office. You didn't address your receiver position, so you have all these guys who can't do the basic things right, which is line up on sides, run the right route, and catch the football. And they can't do that. Aside from Travis Kelce, they have no one else that is reliable enough to do all those simple things for them. Sorry, you got me on a rant, but I know I probably went longer than you wanted me to go. But just line up on side. It's simple. He was offside. They should have thrown the flag. It's not the official's duty to go over and tap him on the shoulder and go, hey, back up. He didn't check with the official, which he easily could have done. So it should have been a penalty. It was a penalty. And the officials, when they threw the flag, didn't know how the play was going to turn out. So, if it had been an incompletion, I think people would have, the Chiefs anyway, would have had less of a complaint.
Well, he wasn't.
But obviously, the way it turned out, they thought they should have gotten the play.
Tony wasn't split out real wide.
Right.
And isn't it usually when they're split out real wide is when the official, because, you're getting so far away from the ball that, and I thought that's when the official usually warns them. But he was pretty close to the slot.
You could see the football.
Yeah.
You could see the football. Line up behind the ball. It's not that difficult, but it seems to be a problem for the Chiefs in big moments of the games. The Dee Ford one in the championship game against the Patriots, they had an interception on the play, and they would have won the game. They would have gone to another Super Bowl. So, it's a problem for them in big moments. So maybe that needs to be a teaching point of Andy Reid.
Charean, great stuff. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Charean Williams, Pro Football Talk here on the show. All right, we'll hit a break here. She was on the Brian Foley Law Hotline. We'll come back with an open segment, read some of your text messages, some of your chats, and just see what kind of trouble we can get into. Brazos Running Company time now. They're at Century Square, great new location. They've been there over a year. It's awesome, locally owned and operated. They're a specialty running store that's got all the top brands you can imagine out there. When you go there, you can find Brooks, you can find On, you can find Hoka. They also have clothing there as well. Viori's hot. Billy wears it all the time. They have it there. I got a shirt from there as well from Viori's. Awesome. One of the hottest athletic brands out there. They got Birkenstock as well. If you're a runner, a walker, or interested in fitness at all, the right shoe makes all the difference. And at Brazos Running Company, they're passionate about running and finding the right shoe for you. And Christmas shopping right now, great place to go to get some of those items off your Christmas list. Go there. Brazos Running Company, located at Century Square below the Star Cinema Grill in College Station. It is the Brazos Running Company. Final segment of the Go Hour presented by the Warehouse of CC Creations. We are TexAgs Radio. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Aggies gather at the Angry Elephant. Luke Evangelist, I know we got some text messages and some thoughts there on the YouTube and TexAgs chat.
Yep, I've got a text message from Jess saying another reason Bryce Anderson might have tweeted that he is staying is because his account had recently been hacked, saying that he was entering the transfer portal. So that gave him an opportunity to clarify.
Well, again, he didn't tweet it, right? I'm right about that.
Correct.
Right?
It came from Texas Aggies United, but just confirming that he is in fact staying, because for a second there was a bit of an uproar thinking that he was leaving, but not to worry, his account was hacked.
Also, I want to make sure that I'm clear about, at least from where I stand on, I'm not saying anything that is a bad thing. I'm saying it's just where we are in college football that I think is the interesting thing. Yeah, I've been, for I think a week or two, I've been saying I want some of these bigger name guys to announce that they're staying just because there's strength in numbers and strength in momentum, OB. I just don't like that this is where we are. Doesn't mean I can't deal with it. Doesn't make me angry. I don't like that this is where we are, but this is where we are.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I get it completely. I just find in all the situations that are going on, from what Luke just read and everything going on with A&M, that I just celebrate that fact that one of your best players
is staying.
Is staying and made it public.
Celebrate it. Look, in this new world of college football, you have to evolve. Something we didn't see a lot of before. You got to evolve. So this is part of the evolution. Even if I don't like the evolution, like for instance, and I'm really bad at this, but in our business, you've got to be on social media. It's the evolution of our business. I don't like social media, but I got to do it. Right? Like, you got to play the game. You have to.
Yeah, it's the new reality, and a lot of us that are, I won't even say college football purists, are just uncomfortable with everything that's happening, the way the game is. And you know what? College football is probably going to lose a lot of fans. There's probably going to be people that say, I mean, that I just don't like the way it is now. And players, you're not rooting for the players because they came to my school, because they want, they're part of there's a tribal element to college football or college sports that, it's not like the NFL. The NFL, the players pick the team.
Yep.
The college, the players pick the school. But now it's just like, I'll be there for a year and then I'll go somewhere else because I think I can get more money, and then maybe I'll transfer again later and see if I can't get more money. And it's just, again, this could have been, guidelines could have been established. This could have been avoided a long time ago, but you had guys in suits that did not want to address the obvious issues as long as they were making a lot of money. And this is the result of it.
Olin, great job, buddy.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. It's Olin Buchanan here on the Go Hour, presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. When we come back on TexAgs Radio, we're going to do a little basketball. Look at this hour. We've got men's basketball to talk about with Justin Lanham. We've got Jamie Morrison. We're going to wrap up the volleyball season. And then we've got Katy Lee in studio, wife to Logan Lee, but she's really the brains behind the operation. We'll have her here talking a little women's basketball. She's an analyst for them. And a lot more. It's TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Little Bobby Brown for you in the background. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Basketball. It's funny that, I don't know if funny is the right word. They're 7-3, and it feels like the sky is falling. But they've played one of the hardest non-conference schedules out there. But we want so much. We just don't have it yet, so Justin Lanham's going to help us either feel better or worse about it. Used to work across the street, obviously, big basketball analyst. What's going on, man?
I am good. How are you, man?
So help me make sense of it, right? It's like, we knew this was going to be a tough schedule. It's about to get harder on Saturday night, right?
Absolutely.
Or Saturday afternoon. Where are you with this team, where things are, how you're feeling about the direction, considering Boots has missed a bunch of action, just comes back. There is no Julius Marble. People know how to key in on Wade. So where are you with this team?
Yeah, I think you hear people say it or coaches say it all the time. Like, you're never as good as you think you are, but you're never as bad as you think you are either. And so, like, that's kind of how I feel right now. You know, you've played a tough schedule like we've talked about. You're about to go into the toughest game you've played all year in Houston, and so we're about to find a lot out on Saturday, I think. You know, Memphis and Virginia, just how they played us, and they did some different things, like you mentioned, against Wade. And I'm excited for the Houston game, but I'm excited to get into conference where you kind of know a little bit more what to expect with your opponents. Like when you're playing a team like Virginia and then you play a team like Memphis, two totally different styles of basketball. And so when you get into conference play, I feel like you're starting to see a little bit of similarities between teams. And so I think that gives you just a little comfort in knowing what you're getting.
Against DePaul, they shot lights out. Against Memphis, not so much. Was it the rhythm? Was it just one of those nights? What do you think it was, that the polar opposite spectrums there?
Yeah, you know, DePaul started off in that zone against us, and we were able to get some rhythm threes, some easier looks. Look, out of a zone, I think it's easier to know, like, zone principles and know, like, where looks are going to come from in a zone. Sometimes in a man, especially what Memphis was doing against us, sometimes you just don't know where those looks are going to come from. And so I think Henry Coleman did a great job of facilitating and just getting the ball out to our shooters against that zone and against DePaul. And against Memphis, it was kind of the opposite. We would get the ball, obviously, to Henry at the top of the key a lot because they were doubling Wade up near half court. But it's a totally different feel. And some people will say, well, Justin, like, you know, you're still at you're still attacking a disadvantage man or zone whenever they trap you out, just like you would in a zone. But I feel like a zone is just so much easier to read and find guys than what Memphis was doing to us. So I think I attribute some of that to just it's easier. I mean, obviously, that's like the knock on zone defenses is you're going to leave, you know, at times guys open on the perimeter. And so I don't know if you remember, this just stuck out to me, but it was so funny in the DePaul game, like right before we went to half. We hit a big three to go to half. And I don't know if you saw this or remember this, but I just saw their coach, one of their assistant coaches on the bench, and you could see it because one of their guys helped out of the corner, and you don't ever help it. That's like a no-no. Like, you don't ever help out of the strong side corner. And so he did, and we found Jace Carter, I think it was, in the corner, and he nails a three, like, to go to half, and the coach just is so upset. He's like, the sky is falling.
So the guy left the corner open to help double a little bit higher.
Yeah, he stunted at whoever had the ball on the wing, and he left, and that's like, you just don't ever help out of the strong side corner. And so he did, and you could just see the assistant coach's reaction, like, what are we doing? You know, the A&M's just raining threes on us. So, but yeah, so to go back to your question, I mean, I think that you could attribute that to why we shot the ball so well. It's just, you know, attacking a zone versus kind of some of the things that Memphis was doing against us.
And in preparation for this, you sent me, there are some pros that came from the Memphis game. We saw the cons.
Yeah.
What would you say are the pros?
Yeah, I really liked and some people would probably still dissect it and say that it's a negative, but I liked the fact that our bench scored as many points as they did. Mm-hmm. They contributed more points than our starters did. And so, again, like, you could say, well, like, why is that? But to me, I think that just shows that we have some guys that can provide a spark off the bench. You know, Manny, Solomon, Anderson, Jace came off the bench. And so, to me, I really like that. Jace is a guy that I just feel like if we can get him, I mean, you saw him in the DePaul game. You get him some rhythm threes, some maybe coming off screens or stuff like that. I mean, we just got to find a way to get that guy the ball and get him some rhythm threes. And because look, Wade, I mean, teams are going to try to take Wade out of what he's comfortable with and what he likes to do. And so I think Boots and Wade Boots and Jace are two guys that really got to step up in those moments.
I'm going to follow up with Wade here in a moment.
Sure.
But who can be an X factor? We know Wade is an X factor.
Yep.
But is it as simple as there's got to be a different face that shows up to complement Wade? Because it's been Henry quite a bit,
sure,
right? But I almost feel like it needs to go a step beyond. Like the production from the front, from the forwards has to be there regardless.
Sure.
And then you need another guard.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that about Wade because we all know that he probably is the X factor. Obviously, we'll go as he goes throughout the season. But I absolutely, and I just said it, and I'll kind of double down on it. I think that could be Jace. I really do, and that's not a knock on Boots or Henry. And the reason I say that Jace is the X factor is because we know what we're going to get from Boots. We know what we're going to get from Wade most of the time. We know what we're going to get from Henry, or we know what we can expect from those guys, right? And so Jace, I feel like can be that X factor. We've seen it in spurts where he can fill it up. I like to see him this past game. I thought he was great on the offensive boards, like getting tip outs and stuff. It kind of reminded me of Dexter a little bit. And so, yeah, I think I hate to say it, and maybe it's a negative, but like I feel like we're missing Dexter. Like I feel like the effect of Dexter, like what he brought and just the intangibles that he brought to the table, I feel like you're missing that a little bit. And so hopefully, I'm not saying Jace doesn't need to be Dexter. He needs to be Jace Carter, but I do think that he can definitely make up for some of that, I guess.
So Dexter, I would say Jace is probably a little bit better offensive option than Dexter, but Dexter obviously a better defensive option. But Dexter was so consistent with his offense, especially as the season went on. I don't think Jace has been consistent yet.
No, and we talked about that last week on the show, just the inconsistency shooting-wise. And it's I don't know what was it 5 for 11 or 6 for, I can't remember what Jace was last week, but his ability to shoot the three, if he can be consistent, I mean, if he can shoot 40-45% from three,
which is really good.
Yeah. I know that's asking a lot for sure, but if he can shoot 40, I mean, just give me 40% from three, I think.
But why not when they're double teaming when they're double teaming Wade for sure, or getting the ball out of his hands? Why not Jace be open for some easy looks?
Yeah, I mean, he should be, and like that's the thing is, and here's the deal. Memphis, what they did, doubling Wade up near half court. They're just banking on the fact, hey, we're going to get the ball to guys in positions that they're not used to getting the ball in. Like Henry Coleman, you're asking him to catch the ball at the high post a lot and then be the facilitator. And so he's having to be put in a position and be sped up in situations that he's normally not used to being sped up on. And so normally that's Wade that's being sped up.
Sure.
And so now you're putting the ball in Henry Coleman's hands, and he's like, oh shoot, like I got to do something with this now. And so, and I'm sure you could go back and watch film, and I'm sure you could say, hey, we are missing guys. You know, there's probably times where we're taking bad shots when we're missing a skip pass to the corner, or a skip pass, across the opposite wing. So I think it can be Jace, to answer your question.
Follow me on this, because I think Wade has got the ability to kind of be a hybrid of these two players, but not in the same kind of level. But when you watch Steph Curry play, he is a magician without the ball.
Yep.
Right? James Harden, at his best, was amazing with the ball. I didn't like the way he played, but amazing with the ball. Wade is amazing with the ball, right? How can they combat getting the ball out of his hands, but yet making him a viable offensive option?
That's a great point. I used to talk to my kids all the time about, whenever I coached, I used to talk to them about you got to impact the game without the ball in your hand. If you look at statistics, like James Harden and Luka, they play 12-minute quarters, so 48 minutes a game, and they only have the ball, or you could say they have the ball a lot, but they only have the ball in their hands like 9 minutes. Like that's a statistic you can actually look up and see how much do they have the ball in their hand.
Luka affects the game, though.
Luka affects the game 100%. But what I guess the point I'm getting at is like 9 minutes out of 48, there's a lot of minutes that you got to impact the game in some other facet. And so that's what I would say to Wade, and try to get him to buy into the fact, and I'm not saying he's not, but buy into the fact of, hey, go impact this game in some other way. Be a great screener. I saw a video clip, Bobby Knight just recently passed away, and they were talking about the Olympic team whenever he
With
coached MJ,
Yeah.
and he got onto it. He's having the best game of his life, and Bob, came in and he was like, what am I going to say to this guy? And he was like, I guess I'm going to jump him on something. And so he jumped him and said, go be a great screener.
Yeah.
And and I think Michael said, Coach, I am screening. I'm just so fast you can't see me. And so Bobby said, slow down then. And so I think that Wade he can impact the game in so many ways. So go be a great screener. Go impact the game on the defensive side of the ball. And get it going that way, And so a lot of times when your shot's not falling or you're not able to impact the game scoring, a lot of coaches are going to say, well, go get to the free throw line. Just find a way to impact the game somehow. And so I think he can be that.
I think that they got what happens in these 3-point games, and I always go back to Penn State. Penn State's the one I always go back to. Mm-hmm. These games that become about a 3-point shooting. A&M is not a good 3-point shooting team. They are a streaky 3-pointing team that usually misses a bunch, right?
Sure.
I felt like they abandoned attacking the rim.
Yep.
Is that the way Memphis was playing them, or does that become a mindset? I just got to keep shooting threes.
Yeah, I think it's funny because I'm going to say this, and it's going to be like, well, then in that respect, you're shooting more threes. But you have to put pressure on the rim. If you don't put pressure on the rim, then you're going to have Memphis is going to feel like they have the ability to just set on the three, and then you're not even going to get looks from there. So I think we have guys that can put pressure on the rim, and we have to do that. Like teams against us, I feel like get a lot of paint touches. Whenever I was a student assistant here at A&M, Kyle Keller was one of our assistants. He's now at SFA. He had me on the bench stat different categories, and there was 2 categories that I charted, and one of those was deflections defensively, how many deflections we were getting. His thought process was, and a lot of coaches are, if you're getting a lot of deflections, you're playing hard defensively, and that's going to lead to steals and easy buckets, transition buckets on the other end. And so the other statistic was paint touches. And so how many paint touches are we getting, and how many paint touches are they getting? And a lot of that is if you get into the paint, the defense collapses, and you have the opportunity to kick the ball out. And then on the other side of it, how good, and a lot of coaches say guard your yard, how good are you guarding your yard? If they're getting a lot of paint touches, then we're having to rely on help because you can't keep the guy out of the paint. And so I think you're 100% right. We've got to get more paint touches. We got to put more pressure on the rim. We can't settle for the three. We shot, 33 threes last game? And when you're not a great 3-point shooting team, I don't think that's a recipe for success. So, let's try something different.
I'm fascinated by you charting plays. Did you do it live and give that information live in game, or is it more both live and then you'd go back? Because how that seems like it would be a lot to get your mind through.
And it was just a lot of it was tallies, right?
Right.
We'd print something off before the game, but it would be tallies, and it was really cool as a way to be engaged in the game and learn that way. And so a lot of times I would give it to him at a media timeout every 4 minutes or whatever, and then sometimes it was just at halftime I would hand him the sheet and say, hey, this is how many deflections. And somebody that was great at that and in practice and everything with my time at A&M was Alex Caruso. The amount of deflections that kid got was unbelievable, and it's translated to the NBA.
Yeah.
I mean, what he's able to do at that level, and obviously be one of the better defenders in the league, is really cool to see.
Let me ask you about Alex, because I think most people have to be a little surprised at the success he had, but not surprised. This is a Nuñoism. Let me see if I can phrase it without being a Nuñoism. Surprised, sure, but he was always going to be a very nice NBA player. I think he has exceeded what most people expected.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially not getting drafted. I mean, you could already say right there that he's exceeding expectations there from an NBA scout's perspective. To me, seeing him in practice every day, it's not surprising, just because of what he was able to do every day. He was a hard worker, got to the gym early. I mean, all the things that you want to say about a player, you could say about him. And so to me, people have asked me that same exact question. Are you surprised at the success that Caruso's having? I'm like, no, I just know what type of practice player he is. And if you're going to do that consistently in practice, you're only going to get better, and you're going to elevate the guys around you. And that's what he did.
Maybe surprised that he was given the opportunity to be Alex Caruso, right? Sometimes you get, like you said, you don't get drafted. You're just lucky to make a G League team and lucky to play in an NBA game. he actually became an integral part of a championship team.
Yeah, absolutely. And like teams right now, I just saw on Twitter yesterday, like there's a lot of teams wanting to trade for him, and Chicago's saying like, no, we're not going to right now. And so that just shows you that they obviously value him and value what he's doing. And obviously, you know, LeBron James, say what you want about LeBron, or if you like him, if you don't like him, but he loved Caruso. He loved playing with him, you know, and I think that just speaks volumes for him and just kind of what he brings to the table every single day and every single game. So I love watching him. I love keeping up with him. So
you're a LeBron guy. The way you said that made me feel like you might be.
I mean, I'm definitely an MJ guy before I'm a LeBron guy, but I respect what LeBron has done and what he does. I'll never, you know, not say that, but if we're talking MJ or LeBron, I'm going to go with MJ.
Good, you can stay. You're allowed to stay. Hey, when it comes to a team or a player from your coaching days not being in rhythm in a game, how do you find that rhythm in game?
Yeah, I said it earlier, and I'll say it again, is you got to get to the free throw line. You got to find.
It goes back to that.
It goes back to that. Go get fouled. And that's another thing against Memphis, not to harp on the game. I really don't want to harp on it. But we were getting some offensive boards, but I don't know if you noticed, I felt like we were getting a lot of tip outs. And so we would shoot a three, we'd get an offensive rebound, it'd be a tip out, and we'd shoot another three instead of, a lot of the times, offensive rebounds, we've got the ball in the paint. You should be getting an offensive rebound a lot of the times close to the basket. Let's go get that offensive rebound and go put it up next to the basket and get an and one, get fouled, get to the free throw line. And I felt like it was a little bit of the opposite of what we were getting was these tip outs. And I'm glad we're getting the tip outs. Anderson, Garcia, Solomon, they're long guys, they're athletic, and they're tipping it back out to our guards. And if that's how you got to extend the play, that's how you got to extend the play. But I would like to see us get to the free throw line more. I think Buzz talked to y'all yesterday about, you know, they felt like, or he felt like that they were fouling too much. And so let's make them foul. Let's put a little bit more pressure. And I think that goes back to you saying let's put some more pressure on the rim, and I just don't feel like we've been doing that lately.
Defensively, and I think Buzz keeps pointing back to that, more than the offensive struggles, he points at the defensive struggles. David Jones was going off, Quinterly doing what he does, right? What adjustments are needed when a guy is hot like that?
Yeah, that's a good question. You know, I think we saw it in the middle of him kind of going off. We put Solomon Washington on him. I know we talked about this last week. I said one of the things I loved was when Solomon Washington switched on to SMU's best player. He wasn't able to get by him. The length, he had to shoot over him. It was tough. And Solomon did the same thing this past game. I don't know if it was on purpose or if he switched on to him or what happened. I'd like to think that it was on purpose that we put him on him. And Jones had to rise up into a contested jumper. It was a two. It was a long two. And that's the best shot, by the way, is if you're going to force a team to take a shot, you want a very contested long two. You don't want a three. You don't want a layup or a shot, an uncontested layup or anything like that. You want to force them into a mid-range jumper that's contested. And I felt like that's what Solomon did. And I thought it was one of our best possessions all game. And so to me, it's like, hey, you don't have to change up what you're doing schematically. If you want to, great. And if you feel like that's the thing that needs to be done, then yeah, change up schematically. Do we double team him? Do we hard hedge on ball screens? You know, there's so many different things you can do schematically. But if we're not going to change schematically, let's put Solomon on him. Let's put a little bit more length on him where he has to shoot over somebody. I just felt like he was able to get into his rhythm a little bit too much. And so I just feel like you got to disrupt that somehow.
All right, let's close out with Houston. We know probably the best team that A&M is going to play this year, right? Definitely in the non-conference. We'll see how things develop in the SEC. How hard – well, okay. Houston plays a similar brand of basketball at a higher level, at least as of right now.
Sure.
How does A&M combat that?
Yeah, I mean, look, I watched a little bit of the U of H Xavier game, and what they were able to do to them had me a little worried at the beginning of the game. They play fast offensively. L.J. Cryer, the transfer from Baylor that they just got this year, was going off in that game, and he has the ability to shoot the ball well. And then they have the Jamal Shed kid that was the conference defensive player of the year last year. And so they've got these pieces that it's like, man, they're really good. They're holding teams. I saw statistically they're holding opponents to the lowest three-point percentage or one of the lowest three-point percentages in the country. And so you know, to me, I guess the positive about that is if they're already doing that, we don't shoot the ball well from three anyway, and we've been able to stay in some of these games, you know, not shooting the ball well from three. So maybe that's a recipe for us is, hey, they already hold teams to a low percentage three. So, again, let's go get to the basket. Let's go get fouled. Let's go get some easy buckets. And so now that's easier said than done. Houston is really good. They're probably the best. I have to look at the statistics, but they're probably the best defensive team, if not one of the top 5 in the country right now. And so it's going to be a battle for sure.
Every time you're on with us, somebody mentions somehow some connection with you. Coach Justin, tell him he coached my niece and my nephew Paige and Rick Trujillo.
So there you go. Yeah, absolutely. They're in Prosper now. Yeah, absolutely.
Justin, great stuff, man.
I appreciate it, man.
Get you back soon?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, we'll hit a break here. When we come back, Jamie Morrison will be here in studio. We'll chit-chat and try to put a bow on the end of volleyball season. Right now, if you're going through another year with awful joint pain, you don't have to. You need to call up the good people there at QC Kinetics right now. Make 2024 a better year so you can get out there and shoot shots there with Justin, or you can jump rope, you can climb trees, whatever you want to do. QC Kinetics can give you your life back because they are the nation's leader in regenerative medicine. All natural treatments that can repair and restore that damaged tissue, giving you pain-free movement again. Again, you can do whatever you used to do and feel better about it and not worry about, the pain. No, the pain is going to go away because they have tens of thousands of satisfied patients around the country, people who had knee pain, back pain, shoulder pain, and they get lasting relief with no surgery, no drugs, no downtime. So if you've got pain from an old injury, you should call them up. If it's from arthritis, whatever it may be, call QC Kinetics and make the most out of 2024. Get back to doing what you love. Call QC Kinetics right now for a free consultation, 979-452-6000. QC Kinetics, 979-452-6000. That's 979-452-6000. Run DMC, tricky. Did you used to jam that back in the day?
Yeah, my friend just ran into him, actually.
Yeah?
I saw a picture, yeah.
Ran into him?
Oh, yeah, an airplane or something like that.
All right.
I didn't recognize who it was when he sent the picture and then gave me context, and I was like, ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, it's TexAgs Radio. That's how we start sometimes. Presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio, Jamie Morrison in studio. We're going to kind of wrap up the volleyball season, look ahead as well. So 10 days or so ago.
Something like that, yeah. So, I missed you, by the way. Sorry I wasn't here.
I missed you, too. Yeah, we're going to have to do it more often
we
during
do
the
need
off
to do
season.
this. Yeah.
So let's kind of just look at that game, then we'll move on. Talk about the Texas game.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, the first match you guys took?
No, first set we took. Yeah. No, we
first set, excuse me, yeah.
Yeah, no, you're good. Yeah, we came in and we actually said the entire season, like our goal was to, I don't know, set the tone for what Texas A&M volleyball is going to be for the entire SEC. So we decided to welcome Texas to the SEC, and that was kind of the talk we had in the locker room of, hey, here's another chance for this, and we get to, I don't know, look through the net and hopefully make them, I don't know, think twice about the fact that they're going to win this volleyball match. And we came out in the first set on fire, and it was, I think, the best we played the entire season, and I think we were up like 16-7 at one point. They'd called 2 timeouts by 12 points, and just it was the level of volleyball I think this team is capable of, and I think I've talked the entire season about we got to, I don't know, make that happen for longer and longer, and I thought that was the longest we've done it, and man, I'm excited for the future based on it.
How important is it to gain postseason experience for this program that had been a couple years, right? And just start that foundation, that culture. We win at Texas A&M.
Yeah, no, we talked about that in the locker room, and I think I've been on here and I've said this before, like my first step of this program is to get it back to where it's been. And it's been, I don't know, a consistent tournament program, and I think it's 26 now tournament appearances, and it's important that we start to do that every single year. And the next step that we've gotten, and we talked in the locker room about the fact that I was proud of the work that we put in the week, the way that we went out against Texas, but the next step is we play Texas on September 27th, and I'm just going to plant the seed right now. It's our first match of SEC play. I don't know if I'm supposed to say that actually, so I might get in trouble, but I want to pack a read. I want to fill that place up, and I don't want it to be like, hey, we want to get close to Texas. I want to beat Texas. And I think the other cool thing about this match is it just sparked what that rivalry is going to be.
Could you feel it there? In that?
Oh, 100%. I mean, Hullabaloo band came, and just there was, I don't know, booing towards them, and then their band was going and booing towards them, and I thought it was, and it was fun. Like I remember taking a timeout at one point, and like I think it was 17-17, and most teams were like nervous, and I'm like, this is awesome, right? And my whole team was like, yeah. And I firmly believe we can build this into being the best rivalry in this sport. And I said it afterwards, it's going to take us time to build this program up to the point where it's there, but that's happening faster than I thought. That's happening, again, with recruiting. That's happening with the development we have of our players that are here. And it's happening, I think, with the attitude. Both teams are going at each other. And it was a really, really fun match. I think it's going to set the tone for what that's going to be going forward. But, yeah, going back to it, getting to the tournament was a huge step for us. I've been on the phone with, I don't know, recruits, transfers, coaches, other places, and there's a lot of people, I don't know, our boosters, just talking to them of like, hey, we see what's happening. And that's a really cool thing that people on the outside are giving you the compliment of like, hey, it's changed.
When did you take the job? What day? Do you remember?
I think it was something like 364 days ago or something
like
that.
So it was right around now,
I'm coming
right?
right up. Yeah, I think it was actually December 18th, if I remember correctly. I don't recommend taking a Division I coaching job a week before Christmas.
Okay,
but sometimes it's a necessity.
So in your first full year,
yeah,
did it feel underwater at times? Did it feel underwater all year? Yeah. Did it feel like, just kind of give me wrap up your year, your emotions from your perspective, as a coach.
Yeah, I feel like a year ago I jumped out of an airplane and had this rush of I took this job, and I landed on a treadmill that somehow operated in 18 and was just running. And I think year one is going to be like that. I think as a coach, as a leader of any organization, you got to set the tone for what it's going to be in all aspects. So I was pretty heavily involved in social media and the way we're going to show up in the world. I was pretty heavily involved in fundraising and the way that happened. I was pretty heavily involved, obviously, in all aspects of volleyball. And having my assistant coaches, my associate head coaches kind of have an understanding of, hey, this is how things are going to run. This is how we're going to run practice. This is how we're going to teach serve receive. And then over the years, slowly kind of took my hands off of some of those things and trusted the amazing people that I have around me. And man, my staff, I just had a moment yesterday where I texted them just saying, hey, we're going to kill recruiting just because everyone comes in here and then just talks about the people. And I'm getting chills. I could not do this job without him, but I think it was kind of playing catch up in every area and then kind of stepping off the treadmill and letting my assistant coaches take the treadmill. And then I was doing it in another area. So I think year two will be probably the same just because we're going to add some layers to that. But there's a lot of trust in me to have the people around me take on some of the things in this program.
I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask it. Are you a better coach today because of this past year? Like, did you learn new ways to maybe, and because it's a different way, it's a different group of athletes?
Yeah, no, like we're literally going to go, and I'm big on, like, I'm not a finished product. I'm big on my athletes aren't a finished product. I'm big on our program isn't a finished product, but literally going to go back today and just talk about like the timing of the transfer portal. It's always interesting because you have in our sport, especially, you have some people that are grad transfers that maybe, I don't know, have another semester left at their university. And you have some people that are undergrad transfers that are in this rush to get somewhere by January 15th. And it's just this interesting kind of, you have some people that are taking their time, some people that aren't, but like, how do we best manage this going forward based on what we've learned so far? I don't know if that makes sense. But that's just one of the questions in my head right now of the timing of this, and going forward, we're not done in that area yet. But how we handle that, and I think we do that in all aspects of our program. We sit down and kind of every week say, all right, how can we do logistics better? How can we teach this better? How can we do this? And I will probably answer yes to that question a year from now when we sit down and have that. So I think that's what everybody's got to do. Take a look back and learn.
Football is its own animal when it comes to the transfer portal. Kind of give us a view of how it is for you all, because it is different.
No, it's to be honest with you, I don't know. It's interesting. Like my mentor is now working with an administration, kind of talking to the coaches, and I was like, "What do you learn?" And he's like, "Everyone's doing the same thing in slightly different ways. Like it's the same process, it's the same everything." I don't know what football's like. I know what our process is like, and it's about getting to know the human being behind the volleyball player. Like obviously we have access to stats. If they're on the phone, we're interested, but mine is just truly getting to know the human, and I really want to recruit to character. I really want good human beings around our program, and
fit, right?
And fit, yeah. And also, like, again, I tell everyone the first thing I say is like, hey, there's no right or wrong answers to the questions I'm about to ask you. It's like, let's see if this works, because at the end of the day, like, we're going to be together a lot. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And I try to get this across to our athletes too, just when they go off into the working world or find a spouse or do those things. Like, it shouldn't be about putting on a mask and trying to be something that you're not. It should be, hey, are we going to work together? As in not literally work together, but like work as in emotionally and connection-wise. So that's a big piece of it. And then, my staff's been working hard of getting some people on campus and making sure they feel, loved, supportive. They get a really true idea of what this program is going to be when they get here, and hopefully get them to make a decision here.
Let's close out with this. Give me a success story that we may not know about. Player, coach, potentially, like something about the program that maybe doesn't get enough say that, hey, this is an example of, this player wasn't doing X, Y, and Z. Just give me a success story. I think the whole year is a success story, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it is. I think if I were to give you one thing, and I'm not going to, name names, but there's 2 or 3 players just we're big on moving humans, about making them, change while they're a part of our program into becoming the best version of themselves. And I'll throw one out. I mean, Caroline Muth is going to go off into the world right now, and just she's going to go off and I think play professionally here. I just got a couple phone calls about that actually as I was heading in here, but
that's awesome.
Yeah, so I think just we put a skill set around her to go do that, and I'll just use her as an example. I think she has a firmer idea of who she wants to be as a human being, and has kind of stayed true to that throughout the entire season. And just she knows, I think, that I'm here for her for the rest of her life. That we're connected, even though I didn't recruit her to this program. Like I'm with her for the rest of it. So I think those sides of things get overlooked sometimes when you're watching the sport, because it's about winning, it's about losing, it's about, the 7 people that are necessarily on the court, when in reality you got a lot of people that are in this program. And it should be about moving human beings towards, their potential. And that's both as a volleyball player and as a human being. So I think those success stories need to be told a little bit more.
Well, very proud of what you all were able to do. Proud to call you a friend, too. Thank you very much for the season, man.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Yep, we'll do it more.
All right.
Right now, hey, you got to listen to this, because you may know the next line.
I do.
Right now, caller number 1. We're going to give you a free car wash from Aggie Land Express Car Wash in South College Station off of William D. Fitch in Greens Prairie. Aggie owned and operated with the friendliest staff and a personal touch. They offer a monthly membership. We'll give the first caller a free car wash right now. Call 979-693-1150. It is Aggie Land Express in South College Station. Welcome back, TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers here in the Rollo Insurance Studio. Time to talk a little Aggie women's basketball. Joni Taylor is awesome. We say that all the time. This year, we're seeing it backed up with wins. They've already matched their win total from last year. Katy Lee is in studio, basketball analyst, and, of course, good friend of TexAgs. Hello, Katy.
Hi. How are you?
All right.
I guess I have to talk into the mic.
I'm
used to having the earphones on, not having the mic in front of me.
How has that experience been the last year and change?
Yeah, it's been great. It's been a really nice way to get back into the game.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I had 12 years of a gap where I stepped away, and it's been really nice. It's almost been a little therapeutic.
Yeah?
Yeah.
When you step away, is it almost needed? And then when you come back, you're like, oh, this is what I missed.
Yeah, for me, very much so, just because I had so many injuries. Right, I medically retired after my junior year, and I've had knee injuries that have followed me, to this day. And so, yeah, it was needed, and I needed to have that like mental separation from the game. But I stayed. Obviously, Gary is probably, I'd say, a great friend, but he's family.
Right.
I say this often, and whether people know it or not, or listened or not, like, he was the first person in our hospital room when we had our first child.
Oh, wow.
So, if that goes to show what type of person he is, I was the one former player that walked with him on the red carpet at the Naismith ceremonies in August.
Yeah.
And so that bond has always been there. So I never really felt like I was separated outside of just not being so interconnected and intertwined on the day-to-day basis.
I know how much you love Joni, but was there a little part whenever they were searching to replace Gary? Like, I don't know, like, you better, like, it had to be difficult, right?
Yeah. Not only that, you're wondering, is the next person going to be good enough? Will they stand up to the man, the coach, the legacy that is Gary Blair, right? And I will say there was one part where and Joni doesn't know this, so I'm saying it in full transparency. There was one part when Joni was hired that I had some question marks, just because I didn't know her.
Right.
I didn't know a lot about her. I hadn't done my research on her. And I remember having somebody ask me, they said, what do you think about this new Joni Taylor? And I said, I don't know. I don't know what I don't know. And very quickly that changed. Very quickly. You just have to have one conversation with her to know that she's real. She's very real.
Well, there's one thing to win the press conference, and she does that every time she comes on this show. But is another thing to apply it, right? And is it organizational? Is it what is it that makes her Joni Taylor?
So again, and these are. I love our private conversations because they so well tie into the big picture, right? So one conversation we've had is about, how leading this team with NIL. It's in a lot of ways, it's almost become a business for these young ladies. For some people, it takes the fun out of it. And for some people, it drives them. So you have to figure out a way to make their college experience still their college experience and something that is so memorable in what they call the best 4 years of your life. All the while, she is teaching them skills for life. And she runs the team like a business organization. They have a team philosophy or a team motto. This year, it's tough. I would fail you if I tried to rattle off the acronym off the top of my head. But what she's doing is she does these soft skills that are life skills, right? That they can take with them beyond the court. And that's impressive. I will say that's, I think, the biggest change between what had to be done under the Blair era when NIL wasn't a thing versus now with NIL so much ingrained and part of their day-to-day, and how she leads. And I would say this organization, because it really is, it is a team, and we're playing for what's on the front of the jersey. But there's so many other facets to the college athlete that Logan and I didn't have to experience, that now they have to account for.
Sure. So 9 wins this year. They had 9 last year.
Yeah.
But there were clues at the end of the year, not just the SEC tournament. I'm talking like the last few weeks heading into it. What were the clues that you saw as a former player? Like, oh, this team is getting close.
Their physique. Coach Yo their strength and conditioning coach has done a phenomenal job with them. They just look the part. Last year, they tried to fit into pieces. That there were these molds that had gaps, and they had to come in and try to fill these molds, especially these freshmen, Sydney Bowles, Janiah Barker, had to try to fill these positions that they could do. Were they adequately ready to do? Maybe, maybe not. But we see it in the 4 transfers that have come in. We see it in the freshmen that have come in and really applied pressure to some of the upperclassmen. When you see that start to happen, you see a program shift. I'll say that's one of the big highlights of when my class came in, albeit I was not so much part of the big 3, but Aquanisha Franklin, Marinikia Tunarche, Patrice Rito, those 3 came in and immediately had a court presence, right? Played big minutes. When you start seeing those freshmen apply pressure to the upperclassmen, not only for playing time, but to earn their trust and apply leadership values onto the court, you just start to see a transition in a program from good or adequate to really something special.
And they are like, it's kind of like volleyball. I watch them and I'm like, they're going to make noise this year that people aren't expecting. And I don't know what that noise means. I don't know if that means a deep run in the tournament, deep run in the SEC tournament again. But there's something that we're going to leave this year like,
there's
wow.
something there.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and that's probably the best way to put it. You know, they're not receiving a ton of AP top 25 votes because they haven't played a whole lot of people, right? They've played Cal on their home court. Great win on their home court. We beat Kansas. We lost at Purdue, kind of hurt a little bit early in the season, but thank God it was early in the season, right? So you have all of these things really lining up in their favor. SEC play is where you're going to really see the difference. You're going to see what this team is made out of. And I love the acronym, the motto, TOUGH, because they're going to have to be that on all layers, on all levels, in every way, every classification. I will say there's really the 3 transfers that came in that are either 5th years or seniors have really changed the leadership of this team. Lauren Ware is like the mama bear, you know, not only from a physical presence, but she has such a girly girl personality, and it's so cute, but she just loves on these young ladies and takes care of this team. And Aisha Coulibaly has just the cutest personality and just the most fun. She acts like she just always is having fun. And if you've met Janiah Barker, you know Janiah Barker's, she wears her emotions on her sleeve. You can see it on the court. So it's just a really cool team to see their personalities shine.
What about rebounding? I mean, there's, was it 5 or 6 times this year I have the note here. 3 times this year, 20-plus rebound advantage, and we had it just a couple nights ago. Yeah, and I think on the offensive side, they're in the top 15 in the country in offensive rebounds. Holding opponents to offensive rebounds. And so, you know, the last game, I think they held their opponent to 5 offensive rebounds. That's an incredible number. That means not only you're limiting second chance points, but that's an attention to detail. That's not just going out and applying effort. That is going out and applying a very concerned effort over one element of the game. And that goes back to what happens in the film room, then what translates onto the practice court, then what translates into Reed Arena and on the road games. Again, it's just a huge testament to the coaching staff for really putting together a game plan, and then the girls being students of the game and paying attention to detail. You mentioned Janiah earlier. How much has she grown?
Golly. Not only is this young lady fun to watch, she's just fun to have a relationship with.
Yeah.
You're drawn to her personality. I get so excited every time we talk because, 1, she's always wearing a smile, and 2, she loves the game of basketball. She just has this natural glow when she talks about it. So Janiah's, for her freshman year, she came in, she showed us what she could do, right? She's just this incredibly raw talent. But then you add in USA Basketball, then you add Joni Taylor, and then you add the rest of the staff, then you add in Coach Yo, and you change her physique, and you make her stronger. You grow her knowledge of the game. Then you give her the experience of USA Basketball. And this young lady has now blossomed into this, we'll call it a pro.
Right.
And she will be one day.
She will absolutely be.
Yeah.
So they get a little bit of a break before Mississippi Valley State. How important is that? Because on the men's side, we've seen it. Like when they get all these games in a row, body takes a toll. SEC play is right around the corner.
Yeah. No, I remember, again, I'm going to draw back to experience just because there were some seasons where we didn't have that break. And it was go, go, go. By the way, you're going to get like 3 days for Christmas to rest and recover. We're going to come back on either the night of the 25th or the 26th. We're going to go, go, go again. And, oh, by the way, conference play is right around the corner. You start to see injuries. We had a ton of stress fractures, during my time. What we're seeing is they're taking care of the bodies. They have recovery. She's giving them more days off. So there are expectations, right? You're going to watch film. You're going to get better. You're going to do the soft skills and the soft things that help elevate your game. Now that we own a recovery business, we see the evidence. It's the proof in the pudding, right? It's recovery is key, and they're just doing a better job of that overall.
I want you to touch on that too.
Yeah.
After, yeah.
The recovery. The stint between the two games allows them to take 2 days off, come practice for 2 or 3 days, take another day off, and then game prep. Right. So it's go back to the drawing board, spend time in the film room, recover again, and then let's set our eyes on what's next. And it's not spending too much time on the next opponent or too little time. It's keeping routine and exactly what your game plan is for one team early in the season or late in the season. It's exactly how it is during holiday hoops. I'll tell you, holiday hoops can make or break a team, but I think they're doing it the right way.
There are many people, and I'm saying athletes right now across the street, and maybe this radio host that believe like go, 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 no stop. But the science will prove to you that if you want improvement, it is not go, go, go. Beyond just resting, your body needs adaptation.
Right. And it's why sleep is so important, right? Like your body recovers when you sleep. So while people associate sleep with laziness, sleep is also very much needed. And it's needed in different ways for different people, but that's why I say recommend 8 hours sleep a night. Same thing for recovery in high octane athletes. Again, the business that we own provides certain types of recovery, but that's just one facet. It may be muscle recovery, it may be massage, it may be sleep, it may be nutrients. It can be a whole host of things, but the way recovery is looked at nowadays, man, it's completely different. Yep. And again, it goes back to we almost have a business across the street, right? Like it's a college, but in a lot of ways, it's a business that drives this business. And so why aren't we helping them understand the business of their body? And part of their body, their business of their body is recovery.
Right.
And if they don't do that, it could be one element of their business that fails. And if that part fails them, I am living testament of when your knees go or your body goes,
it goes.
Yeah. And it can affect you in the long term.
Thank you for coming in.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Do it in a couple of weeks?
Sure.
All right.
Let's do it.
All right. We'll hit a short break, and then we'll come back with a short segment before the 10 o'clock hour. It's TexAgs Radio. We're back. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Short segment. Sometimes these are fun. Sometimes they're terrible. Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center and let's see what Luke does with it because maybe he'll make it terrible or great.
Yeah, I'll definitely make it terrible. I want to give a shout out to Dexter Dennis, who scored 31 points. 20 of them were in the first half. He also had 5 rebounds, 1 block, and went 5 of 9 from 3 on Saturday night for the Texas Legends, which is the Mavs G League team. I also want to shout out Edgerrin Cooper, who's been named a Walter Camp. That was a bad voice crack.
Voice crack.
Oh, sorry. Walter Camp, first-team All-American, an AP first-team All-American, and an FWAA second-team All-American.
Dexter Dennis, I don't know this off the top of my head. Has he had much look with the Mavs this early season?
I want to say he played in a couple games early, and had a couple dunks that I remember, but I don't think he's played all that often.
Those two-way contracts, if you don't understand the way they work, they're awesome because they allow you to play both G League and NBA. And since they're basically in the Metroplex, both teams, you can go one day play with the G League team and then drive down the street down on I-35 and go play for the NBA club. So good stuff there. Thank you, Luke. Appreciate that.
Thank you, David.
Oh, it's so nice of you when you answer back like that. When we come back on TexAgs Radio, Pete Fiutak, college football news, chit-chat about all things going on in college football. Sure, we'll focus on the Aggies, but we'll go deep into the playoffs and everything else happening. After that, John Pugliese, a little more Aggie basketball talk. That and more, it is TexAgs Radio. Welcome back in, TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Let's talk a little college football, as we always do, but beyond just Texas A&M, we go to Pete Fiutak there on the Brian Foley Law Hotline from College Football News. Pete, how you been, bud?
I'm doing all right. So I actually don't know. What's your take on Elko now that you didn't want Stoops and the Aggie Nation rose up and rocked against that? What's the thought on Elko hiring?
Super excited about it. Look, I'm going to make this super simple for you, Pete. I don't think it takes that much to be really good at A&M. I'm not talking Final Four college football playoffs good. I'm talking about 9-10 win consistently good. I think should be bar minimum, the minimum here. And all you need is a coach who's willing to adapt and also hold people accountable. And I think with the resources at A&M, the NIL, if you have a really good coach, you're going to win well here. Jimbo, I think, ran out of favor, he didn't evolve enough. I think Mike Elko has seen it from the inside out, knows what's needed, the discipline that is needed. Defensive-minded head coach who's bringing in a really good staff, I feel like. I think he's a really good hire. I understand why they swung for the fences, maybe trying to find out what was up with Ryan Day and whatnot, other big-name coaches. I think he just feels right. The community knows him. And he's already endeared himself to the Texas high school football coaches. So I think it's a no-brainer. He was always in the 1A, 1B, 1C conversation. If you don't get Day, maybe Elko. It was always that. And he just feels right. And it speaks to me as a fan and as the kind of leader I think he'll be.
Yeah, and the goalposts moved. I mean, how many times I'm sure you figured this out. How many times would Jimbo have gone to a expanded college football playoff, or at least been in the mix going into the final week of the regular season? Because now, going forward, you're right. We've talked about this before. You talk about the programs that are bound by absolutely nothing. That's Texas A&M. There's zero excuse. NIL money isn't a problem. Facilities, fan base. This is the program that's always done the least with the most. And now you don't have to go 11-1. You don't have to beat Bama every year. You just, like you said, it's not even 9 wins. The goal's got to be 10 wins, because that 10-2 gets you to the college football playoff in an expanded era. That 10-2 will always put Texas A&M in the top 11. And that's got to be the bar each and every year. Now, it's going to be too tough to say, hey, win the national championship every year. And I know that some places that's how it's going to be, but that's not really realistic. It really is, can you get into the tournament every single year? And that's probably where this has to be set. And, again, Jimbo was able to recruit. That he was able to get the guys there. Can Elko do that at Jimbo's level and take them to do this? All right, we'll see. We'll see how this works out.
Look, one of the things about Jimbo, and I really like Jimbo, I thought it was going to work out until I didn't think it was going to work out, right? And it was probably between the 5 and 7 in the early part of this year. But he didn't evolve. And I think he showed a lot of loyalty to some assistant coaches that maybe didn't need the loyalty that he showed them. Like, I've said this 1,000 times. Our viewers and listeners are probably sick of me saying it. If you just learn how to block, this is a 10-win team every year. They did not block well the last 3 years. Every quarterback got hurt.
And you could argue that this might have been the first year that Florida State finally recovered from not having an offensive line from the end of the Jimbo Fisher era, because you can totally mark when Florida State turned. It was the opener 2009. I got the date wrong. Obviously, it's later than that. But DeAndre Francois, when he got tattooed in the opener against Alabama, that was it. The Florida State pivoted from there and never recovered. Why? Because that offensive line was never quite right there. They couldn't get it right under Willie Taggart, and it took years and years to get it to this point. And that's kind of the problem. In the SEC, he's able to get defensive guys. This year's defense was great. He was never really quite able to get the offensive line and the offense in place outside of 2020. It all worked. But you're right in terms of pivoting going forward. But like even programs that do pivot, like LSU pivoted this year, and they did advance. They did crank up the offense. Still didn't win anything. But it's life in the SEC. But again, going forward, this has been an 8 to 9 win program. Again, you should be able to get to 10 wins on a regular basis, because that's just where Texas A&M should be at the very least.
At the very least. And so what are your thoughts on Elko? what he did at Duke, what he did here at other stops, Notre Dame as well, and now leading the pack?
No idea. You never know until you get the guy in there. You could say anything's the right fit. Oh, this guy's great. He knows this guy. The stats bear out that it's not going to work. I mean, by work, I mean like be what Texas A&M fans, because the stats are unbelievable. I mean, the odds are of getting a guy who's going to be your head coach and win 60% of his games for over the next 5 years are staggeringly low. It's something crazy. Like out of the 133 current head football coaches, there's only like 12 who've been able to do that. Like you always think, oh, this guy wins. Like, oh, it's so easy for, all the Ohio State fans are mad at Ryan Day right now because he can't beat Michigan. Guy wins 83% of his games. James Franklin, Penn State fans can't get rid of him fast enough. He wins 74% of his games. Those are unicorns. I mean, that doesn't exist. So it could work. Let's see. Again, any name you brought in, even if you brought in Ryan Day, you've got Jimbo Fisher, who had the national championship bona fides. So until you get the guy in the system, is he the next Dabo? Is he? I mean, Dabo wasn't Dabo. Clemson was awful or mediocre for like 4 years before they turned it over. So to say to Mike Elko, come in right away and be an SEC superstar, that's asking a little bit, but that's what you're going to be expecting because, look, LSU did that with Brian Kelly. They got a superstar head coach, and they've been exciting. Now that fan base is going to want a little more than that. Obviously, Alabama's not going anywhere next year. And I could be right here, but I don't think you even play the Tide next season. But yeah, so going forward, he's a rock solid head coach. If you can win at Duke, you can win pretty much anywhere else.
Pete, the direction college football is going, and I'm talking transfer portal, NIL, all these things that are a weekly topic on sports radio shows around the country. It can't continue in the direction it's going. It's going to continue. I don't know how they fix it, but it really can't for the life of the sport the way we know it. It's evolving, it's changing, but can it stay like the way it is now?
You'd think the market would bear it out. The problem is when you have, and actually your school is probably ground zero for having the alumni base with the means and the wherewithal to try to be able to put the collectives together to do this. As we're starting to see, and my thought on this is if I were running a collective, I'd say I'm going after the lines. I mean, I could get the quarterback transfer portal's loaded. You can get guys who can just rise up and be okay. Running backs are a dime a dozen. But it's hard to get those lines in place. And as we're kind of seeing now, who's paying for the quarterbacks and the stars? Well, the mid-tier teams. Because if you're USC, I'm dead serious here. If I'm Lincoln Riley at USC, I'm like, you pay us if you want to be my quarterback. Because if you want to include Caleb Williams in this, he's going to have like $1 billion worth of NFL quarterbacks that he's gotten his lineage there. So in Ohio State, same thing. You want to go to the NFL and be a star? You want to be our quarterback and all the NIL money with that? Okay, agent, you flip your guy the money. We're not paying him to come here. We should be able to get our pick of anybody. So the market's going to bear it out. I do think there has to, and I'm a players' rights advocate. I believe all and the players should be able to get everything if a coach can leave. But where it's going to really bear out and we're going to see it right smack in our faces is going to be over the next 3 weeks because this bowl season is going to be god awful. I mean, I think it's something we're up to like 30 teams now that aren't going to have their starting quarterback because they're either getting out or in the transfer portal or something. And each of these teams are going to be shells of their former selves because of the transfer portal and because some are losing coaches. And it's going to be a rough 3 weeks, and it is going to continue to be the topic of conversation.
Talking to Pete Fiutak here on TexAgs Radio. Pete, let's talk a little bit about what the portal has meant for quarterbacks, though. Like, I 100% understand your point about, you go to these programs that maybe they should be paying them because of what happens, but it has behooved a lot of quarterbacks to move. Michael Penix, for instance, Jaden Daniels. Like, it has really helped out their trajectory.
Bo Nix, your world. SEC fans couldn't laugh loud. Oh, ha, Oregon, you're getting Bo Nix. Good luck with that. Turned out to be all right. However, in the college football playoff era, we've had 2 transfer quarterbacks who won the national title. One was Joe Burrow, who was not Joe Burrow when he left Ohio State to get to LSU. He progressed there. And remember, even his first year at LSU, he was like, okay, and then took that step forward to be amazing in that offense. And now he's Joe Burrow, one of the best quarterbacks in the world. And the other was Jake Coker, who was just left Florida State because of, they just had other guys there. the quarterbacks who've won national championships, Trevor Lawrence, Stetson Bennett, Deshaun Watson. I mean, you still have to have the guys who are kind of grow up in the system. And this year, pretty good shot to the national championship winning quarterbacks, either J.J. McCarthy or Jalen Milroe. So it still has not really proven out in the national championship mix, but obviously it's a good thing overall for college football because every team's got a restaurant quality quarterback. You don't have teams that just can't function at quarterback anymore because everyone's got at least one guy from the transfer portal who's all right. So that is a pretty decent instant fix if you're a mid-range, mid-level team.
Pete, next season, Ole Miss. It looks like they're getting Jackson Dart to come back, Quinshon Judkins, Trey Harris. With what Lane's been able to do there, I mean, it feels like it's sustainable, does it not?
I just dogged the whole idea of, a coach, you never know. I could not be a bigger Lane Kiffin apologist. He was better than people thought at Tennessee. He got a horrendous break at USC because that's right when they got put in the coma penalty for Reggie Bush. He's always gotten the knock because he's Lane Kiffin and he's just does Lane Kiffin things. The guy wins everywhere. I mean, winning at Ole Miss is not a given. And he's been able to put this team pretty much in the mix. And this year, he probably would have had if this is next year, Ole Miss might have been really might have made that push into the college football playoff. I mean, again, he's doing this at a place that's not as traditionally great as people might think it is. And yeah, Ole Miss is going to be great again. So is Texas. So is Oklahoma. So is Alabama. Auburn's going to be better. Texas A&M is going to be a lot better. LSU is probably going to have a defense. So it just kind of still gets thrown into the pile where if this is the normal 4-team playoff going forward, you're like, okay, Lane Kiffin's doing an amazing job. They'll probably go 9-3-ish next year and get to a pretty decent bowl again. But going forward, there's going to be four to five teams from the SEC that every year are going to say, we should be in the new college football playoff. And if you're Ole Miss, that's where he's set the bar now because he's proven that he can go 10-2 in Oxford.
December 12th, 2023. Do you have a couple favorites for next year's Heisman? Just a couple days removed from Jaden Daniels winning?
I mean, how is it not Milroe? I mean, I think I was shocked he was underappreciated in the Heisman voting. He was on my ballot. I mean, Daniels, the historic year, obviously you had to. But really, if you take out the first three games, which were, I can't remember who they played to start the season, but Middle Tennessee and then Texas and then the UCF game. And then things kicked off for him in Alabama once they started against Ole Miss. If you're looking at just the SEC season, how is Jalen Milroe not the SEC Player of the Year? I mean, I know Daniels put up the stats, but he didn't do anything important. He didn't have an important win other than getting by Missouri. Whereas Milroe had the play of the year in college football against Auburn. He won the game of the year by getting by Georgia in a good performance. He outplayed Daniels in the head-to-head, even though Daniels missed most of part of that game. And he got Alabama. He changed the college football season by improving. So you're talking about a guy who, again, I think he should have been the SEC Player of the Year. Deserved a lot more Heisman credit for being the MVP, MOP, most outstanding, and all that kind of stuff this season. And now he's back with an Alabama team that's going to be Alabama again next year. So he's the one. And then it just, who's the USC quarterback? Is it Cam Ward? Who's the Ohio State starting quarterback? So now it's just about that transfer portal. I mean, Riley Leonard today just went to Notre Dame, which everyone kind of knew. He's better than Sam Hartman. He should actually put up some pretty big numbers. But we know it now. And this is where you said that when I dogged the whole transfer portal thing before about national championships, this is where the Heisman comes into play because you get these guys who might have been okay before, makes the switch, finds his home, and all of a sudden, boom, DJ Uiagalelei. If he goes to Florida State, he's a Heisman candidate. So it really does depend where all these quarterbacks land in the big quarterback spots.
Pete, Nick Saban's obviously already the GOAT, right? Like, it's going to be hard to add to his legacy. But I kind of feel like if he wins this year, when the third week of the season, people are like, this is an 8-7 win team. If he wins the championship this year, like, how do you switch the conversation from the GOAT's already the GOAT?
He's not ready to go. He is. I mean, there's no argument. I mean, in this era, I mean, it's insane. Like, again, I pointed out those stats before about just finding a coach to win 60% of his games for 5 years. That's rare. Even at the biggest of big programs, it's shocking how hard that is to do because there's always a clunker in there somewhere. You don't maintain this success like Saban's been able to do. And I don't quite buy into this is his best coaching job and all that kind of stuff. Alabama's done this before. They lost early in the season to an Ole Miss twice. They lost to Manziel one year. I mean, they've done it before and come back roaring and winning the national championship. But it's just having the process. It's just having that system. And he's still got talent. This is not some little engine that could program. It's just so kind of doing this. And this is where, the whole Florida State debate kind of falls flat. It's like, we're not going to the wall here for going hard on a rogue Kentucky team or like a Purdue squad that had a great year. I mean, it's Alabama. How do you really argue against this? And he's still got the talent Alabama's going to have more talent than anybody else out there, except maybe, on the right here, Ohio State or Georgia, or at least it's right up there. So, but he's just consistently amazing because this is just not easy to do. And, look at Ohio State. It's having a hard time getting back there. Georgia didn't get back there this year. I mean, LSU has everything in place and couldn't get back there. So to do this every single year, obviously the guy's amazing. And obviously what he's created is just unbelievable.
Pete, this is the Aggie and me talking right now, all right? So don't take offense, but I'm going to come at you about something. I was going to ask you earlier, you had your top 20 potential Heisman winners for next year, right?
Yeah.
I see Kay Klubnik on there. I see some other names on. I didn't see Connor Wigman. I saw Graham Mertz on there. Is that because we haven't seen what this offense is going to look like with Colin Klein, or is it because of his injury, or is it like – because I feel like he was playing at that level that he would be above Graham Mertz and Kay Klubnik if he would have been able to finish the season.
Yeah, it's more of the list really is kind of more, I mean, the bottom edge of the list is about the potential finalists in the never know category. I mean, Jaden Daniels was not on the list last year. I mean, there's always those guys. I mean, we had Michael Penix on there last year in the preseason thing. I mean, there's the guys you can kind of figure out, they're next up and in, but Cam Newton came from out of nowhere. Johnny Manziel came from out of nowhere. Joe Burrow, Kenny Pickett, last year, Max Duggan. I mean, all of the time these finalists come from out of nowhere. Really with Klubnik and Drew Aller, that's just more like these are first round caliber quarterback talents who should be in the mix if everything works out right. Sure. Okay. How this works. If Wegman rises up and he has a big game against Texas and everyone sees it, all of a sudden you're a Heisman candidate. So really this list is about kind of like having just the guys on there who should be in the mix, maybe not win it, but should be in the mix maybe and try to cover all the bases there. So sure, throw Wegman. Mertz is on there only because he completed like 99% of his passes or something like that last year. And maybe this starts to work in this offense and he's older, he's got the talent and all that sort of in place. So that's the reason why this is in place. But as I say to everyone, if you can find the field when it comes to a December 12th or whatever date it is, 2024 early bets, go for the field because there's always that guy who we just don't see coming who rises up and rocks. And hey, why not Wegman in this offense?
Let's close out with this. Florida State, where do you see them? Is this Big Ten thing real? Do you see them getting out sooner than expected, or is it just a lot of complaining because of what happened to them?
Oh, there's a lot of complaining. It's the Big Ten would like Florida State. The SEC already had. I mean, remember how this kind of works when it comes to expansion? Is that it's about how do you increase your footprint in your markets? I get yelled at for this. I think the SEC completely botched expansion. I mean, they got Texas and Oklahoma great, but they didn't expand further. They didn't read the room. Where now the Big Ten, it's coast to coast. It's the LA teams have to fly to Rutgers every once in a while, but they literally go from one side of the coast to the other to up top now with Oregon and Washington. It is a national conference, and because of it, and because they have the markets, all of a sudden the next. Mark my words, in 3 years, Texas A&M, Alabama, all these SEC teams are going to want some sort of change because they're going to see the Big Ten teams. They're all getting $80 to $100 million, where the SEC teams are going to get $50 to $70 million because they just expanded better. So if you're the SEC, taking Florida State doesn't really make a whole lot of sense because you already got Florida. You already got these sort of markets. You needed to expand further out than that. For the Big Ten, yeah, you get into SEC country, you get to Tallahassee. That's a new market for the Big Ten. just like they could get, like they really want North Carolina or Virginia to expand in that sort of way. So it really is, how do you expand the market for there? But it is a lot of screaming right now from Florida State because they just want out of the ACC because they're Max. They feel slighted about what happened in the college football playoff.
Well, let me follow up with this then. Do you expect, because in the SEC has never been a team, a conference to make moves because of others, but now if they do add Florida State, does that kind of like, all right, well, maybe we really do need to speed this up with North Carolina and Virginia and whatnot?
North Carolina is the white whale. That's the one everyone wants because it's a different market, because of the academics, because of the basketball program that comes along. You know, obviously not just for the ride, but it's football that drives everything. It's North Carolina is really the one that everyone wants. But sure, if the SEC's obviously would be a whole lot better, even if it adds Florida State to an already nasty mix, because you kind of see where this is going. And this whole argument, like, oh my gosh, it's only going to be the SEC and Big Ten going forward. Well, what do you think it is now? I mean, as is, 45% of the upcoming NFL draft is going to be SEC and Big Ten players because that's what it's always been. You basically have an SEC versus Big Ten college football playoff now, and that's just kind of the SEC. It is the SEC, but the Big Ten is on another level from that. So the Big Ten can pretty much do whatever it wants, and if it really wants Florida State, exit fees are not going to be a problem. Grant of rights deals are not going to be a problem for that conference.
Pete, I appreciate you, brother. Thanks so much.
Anytime. You have a great week.
You too. Pete Fiutak, College Football News, joining us here on the program. He was great as always, and we'll get him back here soon. Let's talk about the Association of Former Students. We're going to have Randy and company here in studio tomorrow. If your organization or business is looking for an opportunity to engage with Aggies, then check out the Association of Former Students. They bring Aggies of all ages together, and it's fun events, guys. We're talking about the marquee ones like Aggie Ring Day, All Aggie Hullabaloo Gathering. They all welcome tens of thousands of guests, and there are many sponsorship and vendor opportunities available to get your brand in front of all those attendees, and they offer both digital and in-person options to promote your brand. Options include title sponsorship naming, on-site presence, activation, recognition in social media posts, and much, much more. There's also advertising opportunities in both the Texas Aggie Magazine and the Aggie News newsletter, which are seen by over 230,000 people. So if your business is ready to engage with Aggies, choose a partner with the organization that's been supporting the Aggie Network for over 140 years. For more information on options available through the association, please email sponsorships@aggienetwork.com. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers here in the Rollo Insurance Studio. If you call or text, you'll be called. Oh, I'll pick you up, as I learned the English language, on the Brian Foley Law Hotline. Good people can have a bad day. Call Brian Foley, 936-596-0407. Brian Foley Law serves Houston, the Woodlands, Conroe, and, of course, the Brazos Valley. Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Luke Evangelist today is leaving early. Whatever. Luke, good morning, sir.
Yeah, I actually posted about it on Twitter. I said, I'm returning to TexAgs, but I'll be leaving early. Anyways, I'll get into a text message from Nate from Fort Worth. He asked, since we're going so long without a defensive coordinator announcement, does that increase the chance that our guy is on staff at a playoff team?
Yes. But I want to be real clear. I don't know. There's sometimes I say things to you all and I have a little bit of knowledge of the situation. I really don't. I think they've played it very close to the vest. And, I know Billy's probably, probably has his hand on that pulse way more than anybody in the country. But I don't know. But, yeah, it does make sense. Like, again, we all want things on our timeline. And because we feel like, these people are Billy explained it great yesterday. Like, it is going to be a Mike Elko defense. And does the coordinator make a difference? Sure, it makes a difference. And that guy's going to come with some relationships. And, all right, I see. But Mike Elko can lay out what the defense is going to look like. Here it is. This is my defense. So if we're worried about transfers and recruits, don't worry about it. I mean, hello, Will Lee yesterday. And some of the other names that we're hearing about. So I would say it raises the possibility for sure. But it could be contract situations. It could be like he's got other priorities right now. Like trying to hold on to some of these guys that are talking to other schools. That is a huge priority for him. Luke, what else?
Yeah, I've got another text message from Drew and Brian. Said he'd rather have a bunch of 3-star players performing at a 5-star level than a bunch of 5-stars performing at a 3-star level. If you look at A&M football history, you think of Mike Evans and Johnny Manziel for the better part of that. And then in recent history, some guys like Aniyah Smith and Torian York, who came in really undervalued but have performed like 5 stars. Even just Torian York in 1 year, you can already see the production is there and he's made his impact.
I think it's easier to root for those guys, right? Like it's easy to root for. Like, man, this guy came out of nowhere. Who is he? Who's this Torian York guy? Is he the one that I heard at signing day that was so? Yeah, those guys are very easy to root for. Aniyah Smith as well. But let's go ahead and be real honest, guys. Do you want to be Georgia or Alabama? They get a bunch of 5 stars. They play the 5-star game. It is about getting the right 5 stars. It's about getting the most elite talent that fit your culture, your identity, who want to be a part of this amazing university. And if you don't, later. All right? Like, I'm not here to coddle. I'm not the coach, but if I'm the coach, I'm not here to coddle you. I'm here to develop you, motivate you, and make you the best human being that I can help make you. Be a father figure for you at Texas A&M and put you down the right path. And along the way, we're going to win a bunch of football games and we're going to compete for national titles. But if you are just looking for a handout and you got to play the game, this might not be the place for you. But there is something about 3-star mentality. Like you feel like you've been slept on. Like not all these schools kind of recruited me, and the JUCO ranks and the smaller school ranks. There's something about that mindset that speaks to me personally. Because I feel like I've been that guy in life and in business and whatever, right? Not all of us get to be D1 5-star athletes. There's only a select few. And there's some of those guys. But what was Mike Evans? He was a 3-star as well, right?
Yep.
So Mike Evans, Aniyah Smith, Johnny Manziel, Torian York. I'm all here for those guys. But you also have to play the talent game. And you need 5 stars to win. If you want to be Michigan, who hasn't won, but they're in the mix. You want to be Ohio State. You want to be Alabama. You want to be Georgia. You got to get those 5 stars. So kind of a different world of college football we're in that you may not be able to keep those 5 stars. I actually think, considering the world of college football that we're in today, and compare the people who have left A&M's 22 recruiting class to other schools, like percentage-wise, considering how bad it's been the last couple of years, I think they've done a really good job with retention personally, right? Like, some of the biggest names from that class are still here. Evan Stewart, Connor Wigman, Bryce Anderson. I know Walter Nolan was the biggest name. He's in the portal. Maybe they're able to keep him. All right, let's hit a break. When we come back on TexAgs Radio, John Pugliese. Chit-chat a little more basketball with Pugliese. And I just heard we're going to have a basketball player in studio later for a little Texas Aggies United. So maybe we'll be able to get a little bit of that on the air tomorrow. Right now, we're talking Heritage Films. I was going back and forth with Chance McClain this morning. He said, hey, I want you to listen to this podcast. There's this guy who sounds like you 20 years ago. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, he's got your same cadence, and he talks like you, and this has nothing to do with the spot, but those are the kind of dialogues that Chance and I have. Chance will talk to me about Star Wars, A&M football, parenting, God, you name it. Chance is just a good old boy who cares about just people's stories and telling their stories, which is why he created Heritage Films. He's the founder. It's his idea to do documentaries about just normal people, normal businesses, family ranches, like just people just like you and I. And we did one with my pops. It was fantastic, 2-hour documentary. Told his entire story, how he met my mom, how he escaped Cuba, starting our family here in the United States. An engineer, came here, his education meant nothing, so he had to be a dishwasher, just like Tony Montana without the drugs. And then he had to reschool himself and became an engineer in this country. Told that whole story. Amazing, right? We got to watch that with my kids, and one day they'll be able to watch it with their kids, and I highly recommend you do it with your family and do a Heritage Film, or maybe do a Yearflix, which is a 20-minute version of not the same kind of video, but more Q&A form for the younger kids, right? Freshman year of college, sophomore year of college, junior year, like we did one with Matthew Dawson, who we're going to talk to here in a little bit. Like, hey, this is what I was doing before I got to TexAgs. This is what I'm doing at TexAgs. And then a couple of years later, I graduated and I become a big writer for the New York Times, maybe somewhere else, the Houston Chronicle, wherever, right? Like, that's what a Yearflix can be. Call them up, 713-893-8341, 713-893-8341, or check out yourheritagefilm.com. It's been a few weeks since we talked to our guy, John Pugliese. Let's go to the Brian Foley Law Hotline and do it here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Hoodie season, I see it is. What's up, bud?
What's going on, Nuño? This is great, man. I'm just glad to be back.
Yeah, man. It's been a couple weeks. How's your son doing?
He's good. Everybody's getting healthy. We're back on the mend.
Good, man. Good. Let's. I started off the show earlier at some point during the first hour. Like, it's funny how we feel like the sky is falling after a loss, but A&M is 7-3 with, if not the hardest schedule in college basketball to start off, one of the hardest schedules. There are some things that they got to fine tune, but they've been playing without, for large portions, two of their studs, expected studs. We'll see what the future is for Julius Marble. Boots is coming back. So I say all that to lay it out. Your assessment of where A&M is right now with their toughest challenge to date coming up.
Yeah, let's give Buzz some credit. He went out and scheduled 2 years in a row. The committee and seeding, and they didn't make the tournament, and their people are talking about the lack of non-conference opponents, and what Buzz do? He went out, he scheduled some games. I think they're in a good spot. I mean, I really do. I'm not overly concerned. The Memphis game for me highlighted some of A&M's deficiencies, but I think if you go backwards and you say, okay, we've got 5 games before SEC play. I think it started with maybe DePaul, right? If you got 5 games, let's win 4. You win 4, you put yourself in a really good spot. So they beat DePaul, they lose to Memphis. Now they're playing a Houston team who really hasn't played anyone. They really haven't. Their non-conference schedule is not great, but they are good. And this game is going to be a battle of wills. It's going to be physical. Houston is as physical as any team in the country. But I'm not sure we know how good Houston really is, except for the eye test saying, like, yes, they're good. But we don't really know from a competitive spirit standpoint. We think they're going to be, come ready to play. And that's what Kelvin Sampson teams do. But I'm excited for this test for A&M. I really am.
Play out both scenarios. They win, what does it mean? They lose, what does it mean?
I don't think it really means anything if they lose. Hopefully, the loss to Memphis, 6 points, that's an NCAA tournament team. I'm not worried about that loss in the grand scheme of things. You're going to have to win in the SEC play anyway, but it's good for that game. Houston, I think if it's a close game and it goes either way, you're not really concerned. They're still playing without Marble, right? And that is a big difference. Julius Marble is a huge difference. This team is a top 10 team in the country, in my opinion, with Julius Marble. They're not without him. They're just not, in my opinion. I think they can be really good. I think they could be Sweet 16. I think they can be a top 20 team, but I'm not sure they're a top 10 team in the country without them. So if they lose, okay, hopefully it's a close game, a competitive game. If they win, I think it springboards you into saying, okay, like this is what we wanted to see. We wanted this game to test ourselves. We tested ourselves, and we know that we can compete with the top 5 team in the country. So I'm not too concerned which way it goes, as long as there's competitive spirit there and it's a close game. But this game is going to be all about guard play, in my opinion. I mean, Wade Taylor, Jamal Shade is as good of a defender in the country as there is. And him and Boots are going to have their hands full just getting the ball across half court at times. So I'm excited either way. I don't think it changes kind of the landscape of the season, but it's a great test.
Talking to John Pugliese here on TexAgs Radio. Let's talk Wade, because I don't think he has regressed. I think there's a lot more film on him. He's the guy, and he hasn't had a guard by his side delivering, either because of injury, because, Boots missed some time, or just production at times, right? That being said, it becomes a thing mentally when your shooting is as low, and he's had some struggle shooting this year.
Yeah, Wade's a volume guy. Wade is a volume shooter. He needs to get 3 to 4 shots every 4 to 5 minutes to get to that production point at the end. I'm not overly concerned with his shooting ability because he can really shoot it. He's going to work himself out of this. That's what shooters should do, in my opinion. As a coach, my guys who could really shoot, they miss some shots. That kind of snowballs into a couple games. Man, just keep shooting the ball. Keep shooting the ball because he's going to have a breakout. But but teams are keying in on him. They know that he's a focus. You know, I think with Boots on the court, you can take weight off the ball a little bit more. You can get him moving more, throw him off screens, you know, and get him some more space. Without Boots on the floor, it's harder for him because all the attention is solely focused on him. And you can't really do that when Boots isn't on the floor because, quite honestly, Hayden Hefner has been really solid, but Hayden's not going to make a bunch of plays off the bounce to make plays for Wade. So I think he misses a kind of a running mate in the backcourt without Boots on the court. But I thought what Boots showed, you know, especially in the second half, early in the second half against Memphis, he's still there. He's ready to go. He'll build into this. We need A&M, Wade Taylor, Boots Radford, Henry Coleman playing great in 4 games. That we need them to build to SEC play. But yeah, I was on a call with a friend of mine who's a college coach. He said, "What's going on with Wade Taylor?" And I said, "Teams are keying on him. The game plan is set up to stop Wade Taylor, slow him down, make him put himself in positions that he doesn't want to be in with big defenders, especially in ball screens." I think that's what you've seen a lot of opposing defenses do.
All right, let's play the chess match then. You know Buzz is going to figure it out because he always figures it out, right? I'll give him that. As the season goes on, he'll make a counterpiece. So as that becomes the chess piece that opponents are doing to take the ball out of Wade's hands, what is Buzz's potential counter?
Offensively, I think it's creating more opportunities off of screens, off the ball for Wade. I also think the counter is playing Solomon Washington and Anderson Garcia more, because that brings more size in length, but it also brings some more athletic ability, some guys who can move a little bit more. Not that they stretch the defense out great, but they can get the spots a little bit quicker, and they really finish well around the rim. Solomon Washington and Anderson Garcia, David, 44 minutes a game, 47% from 3, 72% from the line, 57 offensive rebounds combined. That's 12 rebounds per game between the two of them. Those guys have to get more minutes. And I think that would spread some things out. I also think Wade is working harder on the defensive end than he has been. And that's a product of Boots not being on the court, for 3 games. Wade has to take on more on the defensive end. Hayden Hefner tries. He does a pretty good job. Jace Carter's still getting his rhythm on the defensive end. He hasn't been great. The connectivity of the defensive end needs to be better. I think that can be done with Solomon Washington and Anderson Garcia.
Talking to John Pugliese here on TexAgs Radio on the Brian Foley Law Hotline. Let's talk defense, because I never complain about A&M's defense. Memphis was able to get off, though. They were able to hit their threes, and that has been a kryptonite for the Aggies in several losses throughout the last couple of years. Quinterly got off. Jones got off. So what stood out defensively that wasn't working for A&M?
A&M's following more than they have the last couple of years under Buzz. If you look backwards, and I have some stats, but if you look backwards, last year A&M was plus 191 from the free throw line on the season. They're fouling more. Teams are getting to the line more. They're only plus like 15 now. Sure, smaller numbers here, but they're following teams more, putting more teams at the free throw line. I think there's a connection that's missing without Julius Marble on the court, because Marble brings extended aggression and energy on the defensive end. I think Henry Coleman has struggled in ball screens a little bit, and you're going to see a heavy dose of ball screen action. So I do think that you'll see more Solomon Washington and Anderson Garcia tonight, or against Houston. But I think there's a connectivity issue. And really that's just about understanding where you're supposed to be and when, because they do some things defensively that for most high school players or transfers, they don't do at any other place. Buzz teaches a specific way of getting in gaps and where to be in help, and how they support pick and rolls off the ball. And I don't think everyone's grasped those concepts yet. I would expect that you're going to see a really connected team against Houston, but a big, heavy dose of length and athleticism with Garcia and Washington, a lot more switches, probably less hedges, or even string outs, and you'll just see a lot more physicality, especially in the ball screen game.
John, last thing for you. What do you think the key to the Houston game is. A team that you said hasn't played a lot of people, but eyeball test / reputation. That goes a long way too.
It does. I think it's matching the intensity, which I expect to see. I think it's also being able to contain some of these guys, LJ Cryer being one. I'm really excited to see these matchups. I think the matchups are going to go a really long way, but it's going to be team defense. And there were times against Memphis where A&M struggled to get the ball across half court. Not so much like when they were, there was a rip at half court that led to a Quinterly layup. There was some other stuff, but it took them a while to get the ball across half court and get into their offense. Houston's going to do that better than any team in the country. So how does A&M get the ball across? How do they get early actions in offense and get some early looks? If there's a separation early, where Houston goes up big or Houston goes on a run early, I'll be a little bit nervous. But I actually think you're going to see Wade Taylor show everybody nationally that he's a top 3 point guard in the country, which I believe, and I still believe.
John, great stuff, brother. Thank you so much.
Appreciate you guys.
Thank you, man. John Pugliese there on the Brian Foley Law Hotline. When we come back, an open segment, we'll talk to a little Matthew Dawson, reintroduce you guys to him. As a reminder, this is in the Rollo Insurance Studio. The difference is real. They have been the official insurance provider of TexAgs Radio for a long, long time, and they built around educating you on exactly what you're paying for, doing the shopping for you, so that you can accomplish all of your insurance goals. Their headquarters is on Highway 6 right here in College Station. Call them up, 888-44-ROLLO, or go to rolloinsurance.com. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. We're going to go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center, but Luke Evangelist had to leave. I don't know what he had to go do. But Matthew Dawson is there, and Matthew is a gentleman that did our fan show a couple times this year. I think, 2 or 3 times, Matthew?
It was just 2 times, but had a lot of fun doing it, so now I'm here.
Yeah,
How does that make you feel?
We try to every once in a while do some students on the show. He's the only student who's done the fan show, but he was so good. We're like, man, this guy could be a part of the team. So Matthew, you're gonna have your first day on air, well now, but technically tomorrow, where you prepare and you're the guy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty excited for that. See how I do. I mean, I hope I do all right. I mean, listeners, I hope these guys get their fix. So, well,
I just second-guessed myself, and maybe we'll do a different thing tomorrow. Just kidding. Hey, I know you got some news for us, one that could affect A&M on the field, or at least an opponent that A&M is facing.
Absolutely. Just recently, as an hour ago, Riley Leonard officially commits to Notre Dame. Now, if you follow college football, you know that was probably already going to happen, but it looks like they're investing in him too. I mean, the last couple of days, Bo Collins, wide receiver commit, 6'3", 210, coming over from Clemson, and Chris Mitchell, FIU's all-time leading receiver, passing Tyrese Chambers, who's at Maryland now, and as well as T.Y. Hilton. So he's going over there to Notre Dame as well. So it looks like they're investing in him as well. So we're going to see that very early coming in the fall. So
yeah, here's the thing. I don't think it's ideal for Notre Dame to get a great quarterback, and I think Riley Leonard is in that category, and he will be considered in the Heisman conversation, early preseason stuff, because of what he was able to do at Duke when healthy, and of course going to Notre Dame. But guess who knows his game really, really well? Matthew, who knows his game probably better than anybody?
I would say head coach Mike Elko knows Riley Leonard's game pretty well. See him in practice all the time, so I feel good about that. Honestly, of the quarterback names that we're seeing out there for Notre Dame, I kind of like, for A&M's purposes, I like Riley Leonard going there just because, of course, Mike Elko knowing his game pretty well. He's very athletic, though.
Yep.
Probably more athletic than even like Ian Book, who they had, was kind of athletic, or Everett Golson, if you're remember way back, the 2012 national championship run that they tried to make there with Manti Te'o. Yeah, he's definitely way more athletic than any of those guys. I think he had almost 700 yards on the ground in 2022. Suffered through some injuries this year, but he'll be definitely a great addition for them. But again, Mike Elko.
Yeah, Nick, I don't mean to. You're probably busy doing something, not listening.
No, I'm here. I'm right here.
I don't want to be rude. Okay, it's not about you, by the way. I don't want to be rude. All right, so I'm going to allow you. Like, I'm looking at. We've had a steady dose of listeners. We're probably on the YouTube page, a lot of people, but only 12 likes. I don't know if I should ask for more. I just think it's weird.
Well, first thing you need to do is refresh your page.
Oh.
we have 75.
Oh!
It could be 100.
Holy, I didn't know that could happen.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Huh,
there you
interesting. It said 12. I was like, this is weird. Well, I'm glad you did that for me.
Yeah, you're welcome. That's what I'm here for.
I mean, 74 is okay. I mean,
that's okay.
100 would be way better, but whatever. I mean, if people are just going to be lazy, they're going to be lazy.
Yeah, that's all right.
They don't want to contribute to my NIL fund.
Well, they can go check out the Pete Fiutak interview if they missed it. That's been posted to YouTube. Good conversation between y'all two about everything from Mike Elko to the Jimbo Fisher tenure to the college football playoff and Heisman talk. So I agree with you, David. I think on that, I guess, way too early Heisman watch list, Connor Wigman needs to be on there.
Of course he should be on there. It was funny. I was kind of scanning through his article when he was making that answer. I was like, wait, I don't see Connor on here. What? Like Graham Mertz? I love Pete, and I understand why people would forget Connor because of the injury, but I haven't forgot Connor. Connor Wigman is better than half the names on that list. He got hurt too early, no doubt. But Clay Klubnik, Graham Mertz, Connor is absolutely better than those guys.
100%.
Thank you for agreeing with me. Appreciate you, Nick. You're a good guy. Tomorrow on the program, John Harris, good at talking football. The Association of Former Students, good at everything that they do. Tom Schuberth, a good coach and a good man on the program. Ryan Broniger, great recruiting analyst, great with hot sports takes and fitness ideas. And we'll do a little pounding the rock. Tap and Hop will be here. So we'll do that to close out that show. That is going to do it here for TexAgs Radio on a Tuesday. Matthew Dawson, I got to do the first and last name. Great job for your first few minutes there at the Social Center. Luke Evangelist, of course, the crew there at the Mothership, Nick Savage, OB, everybody who was on the program today. Thank you so much for watching and listening. We will see you all mañana.